Fate works in mysterious ways, starting with a disastrous collision. He crashed right into the school's most popular goddess, only to be met with eyes full of absolute revulsion. To her, Tae-in was nothing more than a filthy otaku. Before he could even react, a heavy hand struck the back of his head. The school bully loomed over him, barking orders to go buy bread, the classic bread shuttle duty for anyone who wanted to keep their teeth. Tae-in was just a lonely transfer student living in his own world, until reality shattered. A massive explosion rocked the area, and from the smoke, a hideous, roaring monster emerged. Time seemed to freeze as a blue holographic screen materialized before his eyes. The system had chosen him, but the quest was insane. He had to train for 66,000 years inside the Tower of the Other World. The terms were simple yet absolute. If he accepted, he could choose any single power to aid him. Tae-in didn't hesitate. He chose the ultimate exploit, an absolute shortcut. In the blink of an eye, a single second in the real world, 66,000 years of hellish training passed instantly. Just like that, the filthiest otaku awakened with every skill and stat maxed out to the god tier. To understand this madness, we must look back to the beginning. When the gates first ripped open, monsters poured into our world, and humanity faced near extinction. But from the ashes, hope emerged. A select few humans awakened to supernatural powers and magic, rising up as hunters to push back the monstrous tide. Our protagonist, Tae-in, scrolls through this very lore on his phone, completely absorbed in the backstory. Suddenly, a brilliant light engulfs him. His heart races as he realizes the truth. Out of 7 billion people, he is the sole player chosen by destiny. He wonders if he's finally dreaming, but to fully grasp this moment, we must rewind the clock. Before the power, Tae-in was just an incredibly ordinary second-year high school student. Society might label him a total loser, but he knew the truth. He was simply a man of culture, deeply devoted to the sacred art of reading manhwa. He finishes the latest chapter, eyes sparkling. 10 stars, he declares. The new monocover art was a masterpiece, and he couldn't let such quality go unpraised. Determined to support the creator, he rates, saves, comments, and even donates cash to the author. He is so focused on his phone that he walks blindly into a life-changing accident, bumping straight into a girl. Panic sets in instantly. Tae-in stammers a desperate apology, but her voice cuts through him like ice. "Watch where you're going," she snaps, staring daggers at him. She whips around, hair flipping with attitude, and storms off, leaving him freezing in her wake. Tae-in was actually caught in a one-sided platonic romance with the lovely Jo Yuna, but his daydream is shattered by a slap. The delinquent mocks his creepy expression, warning him to stop staring at the queen bee. Tae-in seethes internally. This guy was the typical rich antagonist, untouchable only because his father worked for the bully's dad's conglomerate. Swallowing his pride, Tae-in apologizes. He tells himself that compared to the psychotic villains in his manhwas, this guy is actually somewhat bearable. The bully sneers, pointing a finger. "Go get my bread if you don't want a one-way ticket to hell." Tae-in walks away, sighing at the cliché. It was a pathetic life, sure, but as long as he had his comics, he was satisfied. That peace lasted exactly 10 seconds before a deafening explosion erupted behind him. He spins around, heart pounding, coming face to face with a nightmare. A gruesome purple beast stood there, drooling with hunger. Tae-in's otaku brain kicks into gear. He analyzes the creature immediately. It looked exactly like the low-tier fodder monsters that crawl out of portals in Hunter stories. Usually, these things exist just to show off the protagonist's new move, or to violently retire a side character. "Please, let a magical girl save me," he prays. But instead of a savior, his eyes land on the bully, who is paralyzed with fear. It is the classic moral dilemma. He realizes he's stuck in that trope where the MC has to decide whether to save the jerk who made his life miserable. He racks his brain for a solution while his classmate trembles. Suddenly, the air shimmers. The system interface appears, declaring that he has been chosen. Tae-in stares in awe. Now this, he thinks, admiring the sleek design, is a high-quality status window. The bully screams for help, tears streaming down his face. Tae-in holds up a hand. "Hold on a second. I need to read the terms and conditions before I save you." The text is daunting. "You will now enter the Tower of the Other World for a training period of 66,000 years. The fine print continues. "Upon reaching the summit, you will be granted divine authority and the title of humanity's savior." Tae-in groans. "Do they seriously expect me to read this wall of text during an emergency?" He skims through. "Okay, that's clearer. Get to the point." The system makes its offer. If you accept, you are granted one ability of your choice to assist in climbing the tower. Tae-in pumps a fist in victory. Meanwhile, the bully is practically wetting himself in terror. Tae-in asks the system, "Does one power mean literally anything? No restrictions?" The system confirms. Tae-in's mind begins to race, imagining catastrophic spells, legendary weapons, and god-slaying arts. The possibilities were infinite, but he pauses. The Tower of Challenges is notorious in lore. It isn't a walk in the park. With 1 year to clear each floor, and death being the only alternative to the top, this was a suicide mission. He analyzes the wording carefully. Is it just a skill, or an item? Hey, can't you hurry up? The bully shrieks. Tae-in barely glances at him. Quiet. I'm making the most important decision of my life. A smirk forms on his lips. He has found the answer. He presses the accept button. The system prompts, declare your desired ability. Tae-in takes a deep breath and speaks with absolute confidence. I want a free pass ticket to skip all 66,666 years of the tower. Silence falls. Even the drooling monster and the terrified bully look confused. The system pauses, processing the sheer audacity of the request. Tae-in doubles down. You said items are allowed, right? A shortcut ticket is an item. Hand it over. The system flashes red, seemingly annoyed. There should be limits. A request like that ruins the entire genre of this story. Tae-in yells back, pointing at the screen. You said anything. If the system, the absolute law of this world, lies to me, then the whole logic falls apart. The system trembles and submits. Ticket granted. It actually worked, Tae-in whispers, grinning like a maniac. The narration confirms. By using the item, he instantly clears the tower and inherits all the rewards without lifting a finger. The system presents him with a choice: accept the power or refuse. Without a moment's hesitation, our protagonist confirms. And just like that, the legendary ticket to skip the Tower of Challenges activates. A blinding radiance erupts from his very being, instantly engulfing the city in a wash of pure white light. In that fleeting heartbeat, Earth outshined every celestial body in the cosmos, becoming the brightest star in the universe. As the light fades, Tae-in stares at his own hands, disbelief washing over him. Did the cheat code really work? The system floods his vision with notifications. He has cleared the tower. The rewards are here. SSS-Rank powers unlocked. Every ability and stat maxed out to absolute perfection. The looming monster and the stunned bully watch in awe, while Tae-in simply closes his eyes, meditating on the surge of godlike power coursing through him. His eyes snap open, locking onto the beast. Even the bully notices the transformation. The class loser suddenly looks like a divine being. Tae-in scoffs, declaring the monster has hogged the spotlight long enough. The bully hypes him up to fight, while the creature trembles, sensing a predator far deadlier than itself. Desperate to survive, the beast roars and charges, a juggernaut of blind fury. Tae-in moves with casual grace. He mutters about the golden rule of beginners, delivering a simple forehead flick. But this is no ordinary flick. The impact instant deletes the creature from existence, but he put too much power into it. The shockwave obliterates the school, ripples through the city, and tears across the entire country in a chain reaction of destruction. A single finger flick just caused a planetary catastrophe. Tae-in stands amidst the ruin, thinking this definitely wasn't in the plan. He is dumbfounded as the system tallies the carnage. Rewards pour in for clearing 389 gates, conquering the challenge, and slaughtering 1 million monsters in a split second. Tae-in stares at the screen, horrified. He never expected this outcome. The collateral damage count sits at a staggering 2 billion casualties. Beside him, the bully trembles, calling it absolute insanity and demanding to know what exactly just happened here. Tae-in ignores the chaos, impressed by the sudden formality. He realizes he can fix this. He casts a supreme spell, Time Reversal. He has the power to undo the apocalypse. Finally, he activates the ultimate ability. The world shifts. The destruction rolls backward to zero. The monster materializes again, right where it started. Tae-in cancels the spell. The monster panics, traumatized by a death it already felt. Tae-in sighs, wondering where the game balance went for a transcendent being, while the beast tries to flee in terror. But there is no escape. Tae-in snaps his fingers, locking it in place with a coordinate magic spell. He admits he feels bad for taking its life twice. With a wave of his hand, he opens a dimensional portal and banishes the creature to another realm entirely. Tae-in stretches his limbs casually. The bully stares, wide-eyed, praising him for wiping out that terrible nightmare. The protagonist shrugs it off coolly. He clarifies that he didn't kill it. He simply evicted it to a different dimension. The delinquent grins, saying he expected nothing less from Mr. Pervert. He admits he knew he could count on him, acknowledging that Tae-in saved his life. Memories flood back. Tae-in recalls the bully actually trying to shield him from the monster moments ago. He also remembers the guy asking him to go on a bread run earlier, a classic errand boy dynamic. The bully flinches in terror, begging him to forget that part of history. As Tae-in steps closer, the delinquent backpedals, shouting that they are cool now. He apologizes profusely, begging for forgiveness. Tae-in scans him for a moment, then raises a hand. He tells him to hold that thought. He has unfinished business to attend to. The bully glances out the window and freezes. A horde of monsters is ravaging the city, he screams, pleading for salvation. Tae-in repeats that he needs to wait. The bully cries out, asking what could possibly be more important than saving the school right now. The protagonist declares his priority with a straight face. He must save his mom and dad first. The bully pauses, admitting that is actually a fair point. Teleportation activates. Tae-in vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, at his house, a peaceful commercial about afternoon naps plays on the TV. Tae-in's parents sit on the couch, completely oblivious to the chaos outside. His mother critiques the actor on screen, and his father agrees it is a perfect lazy day. Suddenly, the news cuts in. Emergency alert. Seoul is under siege. Evacuate immediately. His father bolts up from the couch, heart racing, wondering what madness is unfolding. The streets of Seoul have become a war zone. Monsters clash and buildings crumble. Confusion reigns as a massive beast looms outside their window, charging an energy blast. The parents cower, but suddenly, the protagonist warps in behind the creature. With a cold glare, he lays a hand on the beast. Inverted gravity. Activate. Physics breaks. The monster is launched skyward, screaming as it floats helpless into the atmosphere. Tae-in taps on the window, calling out to them. He assures them he is still their son. His parents stare, asking why he is here and why he is wearing shoes in the living room. Tae-in shouts back, frustrated. The shoes are not the priority right now. He takes a breath. They have worked hard raising him for 16 years. They always worried about him reading those manhwas on his phone, but that time is over. He reveals the truth. He has been chosen as the savior of humanity. His parents look at him like he is speaking nonsense. Tae-in begins his monologue, explaining that he always wondered about those monoprotagonists facing calamities just like this. In typical stories, protagonists chase godlike powers or selfish desires the moment the system awakens. But Tae-in had different priorities. While others dreamed of harems and conquests, he only had one thought, his parents' safety. Without hesitation, he cast multiple high-tier buffs on his confused mother and father. I will protect you above all else, he vowed, erecting an impenetrable S-rank barrier around their home. Golden mana shimmered into existence. He explained that this sanctuary was absolute. Not a single monster in this apocalypse could lay a finger on them now. With his family secured, it was time to address the rest of the world. His parents stared at him, bewildered, asking what on earth had gotten into their son. I love you both, Tae-in whispered, a bittersweet smile on his face. Before they could reply, he vanished into thin air, leaving only their echoes of love behind. The scene shifted instantly to the school. The school bully sneered, spotting his return. So the loser is back, he scoffed, asking about Tae-in's parents. They are safe, Tae-in replied coldly. The bully smirked, relieved he wouldn't get in trouble. But Tae-in wasn't done. He recalled the bread shuttle errands this thug used to force on him. As a man who once suffered under this tyrant's heel, it was time for a little karmic justice. The hunter had become the prey. Tae-in snapped his fingers, activating mass summoning magic. The air grew heavy, terrifying the bully. You wanted bread? Tae-in asked. Let's see if you can eat it all. Space tore open, and a deluge of hamburger buns rained down like a meteor shower, burying the thug under a mountain of carbohydrates. The bully gasped for air, clawing his way out of the bakery avalanche. Tae-in looked down at him with disappointment. Weak. I give your suffering a 7 out of 10. What is wrong with you? The bully screamed, trembling. I never did anything bad enough to deserve this sorcery. Selective memory? Tae-in scoffed. Let me refresh your brain with a little flashback projection. A holographic screen manifested, replaying the trauma. The sound of cruel laughter echoed through the hall, the soundtrack of Tae-in's hellish school days. The phantom stench of a burning uniform filled the air. The vile taste of toilet water mixed with cafeteria food being forced down his throat. The crushing despair he felt every time he saw a padlock secured around his glasses, blinding him for their amusement. Do you see it now? Tae-in demanded. The delinquent shrieked in denial. That wasn't me. I never did the toilet thing, he stammered, admitting to the bread errands but denying the rest. I didn't even know you wore glasses, he cried. Tae-in tilted his head. Are you saying the protagonist is wrong? You're making it sound like real history, the bully sobbed. Tae-in shrugged. Fine. I accept your apology. I am a merciful god after all. As a token of our renewed friendship, Tae-in smiled darkly. I will transform you into something you truly love. The bully's eyes lit up, imagining a bodybuilder's physique. Tae-in activated his transmutation skill, firing a beam of chaotic energy. Smoke engulfed the classroom. As it cleared, Kim Il-jin was gone. In his place sat a massive, sentient hamburger bun. What did you do? The bun screamed. Tae-in chuckled, poking the doughy surface. You're adorable. Repent sincerely, and maybe I'll turn you back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Il-jin the bun wailed. Suddenly, a trembling voice cut through the madness. What is that? Yuna stood in the doorway. Tae-in turned, feigning surprise. Ah, the gods have chosen me, he declared, ignoring the weeping pastry, begging for its humanity. Is that hamburger alive? Yuna whispered, horrified. It's cute, isn't it? Tae-in replied. Aren't you scared? She asked, her voice shaking. The world outside had descended into chaos. Monsters roamed, people were dying, and the sky had turned the color of blood. Communications were dead. The police were gone. Yuna was the only survivor in the school, paralyzed by the fear of death. How can you be so calm? She cried. Tae-in looked at her with pity. Yuna, have you never read a webtoon before? It's a genre convention, he explained casually. Don't think too hard. The school is empty because the author was too lazy to draw background characters. What are you talking about? Yuna screamed. Tae-in sighed, shaking his head. You're too boring to be the female lead. No flavor. Yuna froze, offended. Tae-in analyzed her. She was acting like a generic villainess meant to interrupt the plot flow. I need an upgrade, Tae-in decided. If the story won't provide a heroine, I'll summon one myself. He raised his hand, activating interdimensional summoning. System, bring me a better protagonist. A blinding portal ripped open the fabric of reality. What is that light? Yuna shielded her eyes. I am summoning the most beautiful, captivating woman across the multiverse, Tae-in announced. Outside, even the monsters paused, sensing the overwhelming aura. The light faded, revealing a silhouette in the smoke. What did this pervert do now? The hamburger bun muttered. Tae-in's eyes widened. A stunning woman stepped forward, gripping a knife, dripping with fresh blood. She locked eyes with Tae-in. I killed the Duke, she stated calmly, her dress stained crimson. I struck Germaine down with my own hands. Tae-in's mind raced. Asterisk, she's from a romance fantasy. The type who seduces the tyrant, kills him, and becomes the villainess herself. Asterisk. My husband, she purred, stepping closer. You were audacious the moment you called my name. No one in the House of Liberan has ever spoken to me so casually, she whispered, the yandere energy spiking off the charts. Stop, cut, Tae-in interrupted, waving his hands. Nobody gave you permission to switch genres to a soap opera. You must be Layla, Tae-in sighed, rubbing his temples. Listen closely. The first 3 chapters of a webtoon are crucial for retention, and you're ruining the pacing. If she drags this backstory out, he'll be stuck in this school arc for 3 episodes. Readers will riot over the slow pacing. The girl keeps rambling, completely oblivious. Tae-in cuts her off cold. Enough with the rehearsed lines and sparkling flower effects. Layla snaps back. Who are you to raise your voice? Tae-in sighs. Put the knife down first. Then we can talk. He grimaces. I never read these romance fantasies for a reason. Meanwhile, the girl looks around in panic. Where am I? And why am I dressed like this? Just seconds ago, she was driving a dagger into her husband's chest. But the protagonist doesn't care about the drama. With a casual snap of his fingers, he throws the dagger aside. A pulse of magic scrubs the blood away instantly. Clean yourself up. Beneath the grime, her divine beauty shines through. Yunya and Iljin turn bright red. Who times you? Layla demands. Tae-in ignores her, eyes narrowing. It's coming. He deploys a system defense barrier just as a massive club smashes into the school. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. The building shakes, but the barrier holds firm. 0 damage. Yunya screams in pure terror. Layla's eyes go wide. What in the heavens was that? Outside, the beast strikes again and again. Tae-in watches calmly as the monster roars in frustration, unable to leave even a scratch. Perfect idiot for a warm-up. The protagonist smirks. He flies out the window, activating a limiter to seal his power to 1/1,000,000th. He unleashes an unranked ability, Shock Finger. A single flick of his finger obliterates the giant monster in a shower of gore. The girls stare, jaw dropped. Incredible, Layla whispers. Yunya shakes her head. Magic? Monsters? This shouldn't exist. Tae-in shrugs. As long as it's entertaining, who cares about logic? He casts D rank. Freeze. Instantly, the horde turns to ice. Then, he triggers Stomp. Asterisk, crash. Asterisk. An earthquake ripples out, shattering the frozen monsters into dust. Tae-in sighs deeply, looking at the devastation. Maybe I got too excited. Even holding back. I wreck everything. This power is absurd. But a grin creeps onto his face. Asterisk. Ding. Asterisk. The system announces his first victory. But the battle isn't over. An endless sea of monsters surges toward the protagonist. Fantasy RPG, mixed with hunter portals, the best genre combo. Tae-in laughs. He activates Flight and Psionic Boost, blasting forward at max speed. He becomes a blur of death. Monsters are sliced apart before they can even blink. The protagonist advances without mercy. He strikes down a final dragon-shaped beast. Silence falls. He looks up at the open portals. Now, what to do about those? Entering each dungeon is a pain, he mutters. Let's skip the grind. He casts Dimensional Exile. Space warps. The remaining monsters are sucked back through the portals and sealed away instantly. No chance to resist. I'll just delete the portals entirely. With a wave of his hand, the rifts snap shut. Dimensional Exile complete. That should keep Soul safe for now. He teleports back to the classroom. The girls are already deep in conversation. Layla points at him. He's here. She explains her theory. She heard people talking, so she assumes she traveled to the future. The protagonist shakes his head. Not exactly. He eyes her bulky dress. But let's adjust you to fit this world first. System. Transformation. That outfit is a nightmare for artists to draw, he grumbles, especially if we have another fight scene. Asterisk, flash. Asterisk, Layla is instantly reformatted into casual modern clothes. Kim Il-jin stares, heart-struck. He's totally fallen for her. Layla looks down in horror. Bring me a cape, a dress, immediately. The protagonist ignores her. The hair is too complex too. Let's tie it up. Yunya covers her face. I never wanted to know about your perverted tastes. Tae-in rolls his eyes. Relax with the insults. We're friends here. I just picked something comfortable. Okay. Maybe the shorts are a bit much, he admits. Il-jin grabs his arm, begging. Don't change a thing. It's perfect. The protagonist turns to the girl. Look, Miss Lieberschan. It looks new, but trust me. You can wear this. Yunya perks up. Can you conjure Chanel? Louis Vuitton? The protagonist looks at her flatly. Since when are you that kind of character? Layla interrupts, standing tall. I am not Lieberschan. I am Kleshvas, a noble name of the royal family. The protagonist sighs, looking at her chaotic ponytail. Even tied up, your hair is still a disaster. Layla's face falls. But I am no longer worthy of the name Kleshvas. Not after taking my husband's life. Sorry to hear that. Tae-in scratches his head. He has no clue what she's talking about, but he recognizes the tragic heroine vibe. I don't need the details. Layla blinks. What? The protagonist starts guessing. Let me see. You had a terminal illness? Her eyes widen. How did you know? That wasn't all, he continues. You were probably forced into an arranged marriage with someone you didn't love. Your husband made a mistake, things got ugly, and you were framed as the villainess. Then, snap, tears stream down the girl's face. It is all true, Tae-in nods. Must have been hell. But you don't have to live that script anymore. I took the crown prince's life. She sobs. The protagonist shrugs. He attacked first, didn't he? He places a hand on her, activating Seraphim's blessing. A holy light surrounds her. You did nothing wrong. The girl remarks on the strange warmth spreading through her veins. Tae-in replies that he has cleansed every single ailment from her body. Death no longer has a hold on her. The chains are broken. She is finally free to live in this world on her own terms. Layla realizes the weight is gone. Not under the thumb of a powerful father, nor her idolized friend, nor even her husband, the crown prince. None of them could grant her this liberation. Yet this stranger she just met handed her freedom like a simple gift. Overwhelmed, the girl weeps, tears of gratitude. Suddenly, a system window pops up. The protagonist has slaughtered 33 monsters, unlocking a hidden achievement. He shrugs it off as nothing. This is merely the prologue of his story. However, the system has other ideas. A notification chimes. The constellations are watching, and they are intrigued by his performance. By pleasing these celestial viewers, he could earn divine sponsorships, legendary skills, and item upgrades beyond imagination. The protagonist scoffs at the attention. Why are so many stars peeping at his life? Annoyed, he commands the system to block every single one of them. The system practically screams in protest, asking how he could possibly reject such a golden opportunity for power. Tae-in replies that he simply hates being watched. He shifts the mood, turning to his new friends with a grin, asking if they are ready to save the world with him. Meanwhile, in a realm far above reality, the Interdimensional Council of Celestial Beings is in an uproar. Huja Karuna of Raj fumes with indignation. How dare a mere mortal refuse a constellation's favor? He has never faced such an insult. Omori, the constellation of games, finds it amusing, while Oshiku suggests they teach the arrogant human a lesson. But Sakai, the king of constellations, commands silence. Human or not, this man climbed the Tower of Challenges. By the ancient laws, he has earned their respect. Muramu of Despair argues it is impossible for a human to be that strong. Dima of Envy adds that he must have cheated and skipped the floors entirely. One constellation steps forward, demanding permission to descend to the lower dimension. He declares he will judge the human personally. If he sees the potential to disrupt the order of the universe, he will erase the protagonist without a second thought. Back on Earth, Tae-in prepares to share his overflowing power. He tells the group to hunt at will, but Yuna sighs, declaring it completely pointless. She demands to know why she should risk her life in this mess. Iljin nods in agreement, terrified that this is asking too much of them. Tae-in laughs off their fear. As his chosen companions, their safety is guaranteed. He will not let them die. Yuna argues back, pointing out that with his godlike level, he could clear the dungeon solo. Why drag them into it? Tae-in explains the logic of a protagonist. If he destroys everything alone, it is boring. Suddenly, a beast charges straight for him. With a casual strike, the protagonist obliterates the monster in a single blow. He explains that the stronger the main character is, the more interesting the side characters must be to balance the story. Yuna stares blankly, not understanding a word of his meta-nonsense. But Layla's eyes light up. She understands perfectly. They must kill to save the world. She has already taken the life of a royal husband. Taking the life of a mindless beast should be easy. She pivots toward a monster. The protagonist grins. His goal was entertainment, and he has found his perfect assassin in Layla. The girl activates her malice release skill. Her dagger dances through the air in a flurry of silver flashes. The monster is minced into hundreds of pieces instantly. Layla revels in the sensation of release. She has solidified her role as the group's damage dealer. Yuna asks why she is so intense. The protagonist nods approvingly. Layla has established a clear and striking character concept. The girl whispers that she has never felt such a rush of adrenaline in her entire life. Suddenly, a monster ambushes from the rear. Tentacles shoot out, ensnaring her. Iljin screams for someone to save his princess, and Yuna urges them to act fast. The big guy, Iljin, charges forward. The protagonist watches with glee, eager to see his role unfold. Iljin focuses his energy and delivers a mighty headbutt. But it bounces off harmlessly. He panics, asking why his ability is so trash. Is he just the comic relief mascot? He yells at the protagonist to give him a cool power too. Meanwhile, Layla takes advantage of the distraction to free herself, thanking the human shield. Iljin spins around, pretending it was all calculated. Tae-in laughs, saying that was entertaining, before stepping in to slice the creature in two. Yuna stands frozen in shock. Tae-in points at her. It is time to show her magic. But Yuna shakes her head, refusing to fight. She argues that Tae-in is incredibly strong and can literally turn back time. He was chosen by the gods themselves. He could just reset the timeline to before the world went to hell. Real people are losing their lives every second, yet his amusement seems to be the priority. Tae-in confirms this without hesitation. He tells her she will understand one day. In this broken world, having fun is the only thing that matters. Yuna feels the atmosphere shift. The protagonist shouts, "An aerial enemy is incoming." He orders her to blast it with magic. The girl grips her staff with terrifying force. She does not cast a spell. She swings it like a bat. The monster is launched into the horizon with a sonic boom. The group stands in stunned silence. Yuna is not a mage. She is a strength-based warrior in disguise. Iljin comments she looks like a pro baseball player. Yuna blushes, admitting she trained a little in her youth, while Tae-in complains that this twist was not in his script. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. He spun around to defend against a magical ambush, his mind racing to identify which monster possessed such stealth. A man stepped from the shadows, his voice dripping with arrogance. He remarked on how impressive it was to interfere with his overwhelming chi using nothing but bare hands. Tae-in's eyes widened as recognition hit him like a truck. The stranger smirked, admitting he was surprised to find such a hidden master residing in the east. The protagonist gasped, identifying the figure instantly as the heavenly demon. Cheon-ma raised an eyebrow, asking how his true identity was known, to which Tae-in confessed he was a massive fanboy. Yuna, confused, asked how the pervert knew this guy. Tae-in told her to educate herself and look up Cheon-ma's webtoon immediately. He explained that this man was an iconic figure in the martial arts genre, a legend always portrayed as the absolute, unrivaled villain. Cheon-ma noted that the boy talked too much. However, he deduced that the tremendous energy surge from the east must have been Tae-in's doing. Tae-in asked if he meant the shockwave from earlier, the one that had blasted across the entire eastern peninsula of Korea. Confirming it was him, Tae-in asked why the villain was here. Cheon-ma explained that over centuries, martial arts had degraded, and humans had become pathetic and weak. He had grown bored with such a peaceful, stagnant world. But then, the heavens and earth began to be remade. Monsters began to flood the realm. For Cheon-ma, watching beasts fall from the sky was a source of pure delight. He had finally experienced a chaotic thrill he had never known before. But just as he was about to let that beautiful chaos consume him entirely, a massive wave of energy had slammed in from the east. Screaming that it was dangerous, Cheon-ma had been forced to defend himself using the heavenly demon god's absolute seal. The blast of power had struck him with devastating force. He had barely managed to dissipate the impact. The destructive power was impressive, but what followed was even more shocking. He watched as the broken world began to stitch itself back together. He had witnessed a miracle beyond comprehension. Time itself was reversing, restoring everything that had been destroyed to its original state. This was undoubtedly the work of an absolute master. Driven by pure instinct, he had sprinted across the water, crossing continents and seas to find the source. And that journey had led him right here, standing before them, in the flesh. Yuna interrupted, pointing out that setting aside his Jesus, like run across the China Sea, why did a Chinese ancient master speak fluent Korean? Tae-in grumbled that she actually had a point. Chan Ma ignored the logic hole and called out to the Master of the East, declaring he would take his life, right now. Tae-in shouted in excitement, thrilled to see the real heavenly demon in action. Chan Ma laughed darkly, his aura flaring as he suggested they have a little fun. The girls worried that perhaps he didn't want to fight, but Chan Ma charged his demonic energy, unleashing the legendary celestial dragon palm directly at the protagonist. The impact caused a catastrophic explosion, dust rising everywhere. But in a blink, the protagonist appeared behind him, whispering, "That was a very slow attack." Chan Ma whipped around, stunned by the speed. Tae-in confessed he had always wanted to do that, to teleport behind an enemy and whisper too slow in a deep, cool voice. It was every man's dream. He had awakened and grown exponentially stronger. Now, he needed to measure just how powerful Chan Ma really was, because that last technique was awesome. Chan Ma apologized for the misunderstanding. Then, the villain turned away, claiming he had lost interest. He stated he would rather go hunt the monsters up ahead. Coming here had been a waste of time. Il-jun scoffed, pointing out that was just a lame excuse because his ultimate technique had failed. Chan Ma paused, questioning if this land was truly Korea. He sneered that a country led by such a weakling had absolutely no future, but the protagonist's expression darkened. He called out to the heavenly demon, warning him that he had just crossed a line. Tae-in didn't care about the other insults, but this wasn't just Korea. It was the Republic of Korea. Chan Ma recoiled, sensing the sudden shift in pressure. He stammered that it was impossible, as he couldn't even sense the boy's presence anymore. Desperate, he launched another palm strike at the protagonist. Tae-in simply watched the energy hurtling towards him. He blocked the devastating attack with a random rock, zero effort required. Chan Ma gritted his teeth, trapping him with more demonic energy. Yuna screamed his name in panic. The heavenly demon gloated, explaining that this martial art compressed space itself, there was no escape. Tae-in simply stepped out of the trap, breaking the unbreakable bind. He stretched, commenting that the move felt quite refreshing. Chan Ma stood frozen in shock. The protagonist admitted the attack was annoying, but undeniably cool. He then pointed a finger, ordering the demon to become his companion. The group gasped at the audacity. Chan Ma roared that his power was absolute, perfected over centuries. Yet not a single move had worked on this brat. He was the number one under the heavens. He would never accept defeat or servitude to a kid like this. Tae-in questioned that fancy title, a mischievous glint in his eye. He was thinking of something much more entertaining. He told Chan Ma that his days of living a normal life were over. With a grin, Tae-in activated his special transformation ability. Il-jun, confused, asked what he was planning. A cloud of magical smoke engulfed Chan Ma. The villain coughed, questioning what kind of cheap trick this was, until he noticed his voice had become soft and high-pitched. The smoke cleared, and everyone's jaw dropped. Tae-in declared that he was no longer the strongest man under the heavens, but now, the strongest woman. The newly gender-bent Chan Ma shrieked, asking what that bastard had done to her body. Yuna yelled that Tae-in was a genuine pervert, but the protagonist just shrugged. Turning a terrifying villain into a charming waifu is an ancient creative trope, and for some reason, it's become rare these days, so he was bringing it back. Yuna tried to argue, but the protagonist cut her off. He told her to shut up, side characters shouldn't speak more than 3 lines in a row. Cha-yeon-ma lunges at the protagonist with fury in her eyes, demanding he revert her transformation immediately, but Tae-in simply smacks her upside the head without flinching. He coldly remarks that it's been a while since someone struck her, considering she always sat at the top of the food chain, warning that if she acts up again, the next blow will be much heavier. Yunya watches in disbelief, complaining that he talks so casually, while physically threatening a woman, labeling him an absolute scumbag. The protagonist ignores the insult, casually noting that he has successfully acquired another party member for his collection. Cha-yeon-ma clutches her head, defeated, asking if there is truly no way to turn back. Realizing she is now stuck as the group's dedicated monk, Tae-in tells them to play nice and hunt the nearby monsters like good teammates, then mutters that this level is too easy before activating his teleportation skill, casually announcing he's off to save the world. The girls are left standing in the dust, exchanging confused glances, wondering what on earth they are supposed to do now. Meanwhile, across the globe in Washington, D.C., the atmosphere inside the White House Situation Room is suffocating, as officials scream that there is no time to debate the unfolding disaster. Humanity faces immediate extinction, and the leaders of the free world are paralyzed by the need for a split-second decision. The president, sweating nervously, questions if the nuclear option is their only hope, even if it means detonating warheads on their own sovereign soil. The Secretary of Defense speaks with a heavy heart, admitting that even with every conventional, biological, and chemical weapon in their arsenal, the sheer number of monsters flooding through the open gate is unstoppable. Rage overcomes the president, and he slams his fist onto the table, cursing the hopeless nightmare they have found themselves in. He desperately wishes the bombs could at least seal the gates, but suddenly, Tae-in's voice cuts through the tension, declaring that he will handle the situation personally. The president whips around, demanding to know who this intruder is. As the protagonist calmly greets the most powerful man on Earth, he introduces himself with a straight face as the pervert from Korea and the savior of humanity, causing a stunned silence before the room erupts into chaos and guns are drawn. Tae-in raises a hand, ordering them to listen, but a security officer screams for him to surrender or face immediate execution. The protagonist sighs, complaining that this is a pain, while officials scream that he appeared out of thin air and must be a monster, though the president hesitates, ordering them to wait. The trigger-happy guards open fire, unleashing a hail of bullets at the intruder, but the security team is left frozen in shock a second later. Tae-in stops every single bullet in mid-air with a casual wave of his hand, laughing as he tells them that now, they have no choice but to trust him completely. His expression turns serious as he orders them to deploy every single piece of nuclear equipment the United States possesses. The president stammers that such an order is impossible, but Tae-in activates his mass manipulation ability, instantly hijacking the minds of everyone in the room. The officials' eyes go blank as they become mindless puppets, and the president robotically picks up the red phone. He issues the Doomsday Command to NASA and all military units under Code 389, ordering the immediate launch of the entire nuclear arsenal. Across the nation, soldiers are terrified by the order, but the command is absolute, and the silos open as missiles begin to streak into the sky. The exact count is classified, but in that terrifying moment, approximately 8,000 nuclear warheads are fired simultaneously. The protagonist decides to take over, activating his invisible hand ability, conjuring a massive, unseen palm to catch the weapons in mid-flight. He then triggers his replicate ability, multiplying the missiles instantly and bringing the devastating swarm under his absolute control. Tae-in issues a mental command to gather every single missile without exception, redirecting the apocalyptic payload straight toward the dimensional portal. The sky darkens as the nuclear weapons converge on the rift, and Tae-in watches with a triumphant smirk, savoring the destruction to come. Meanwhile, in Moscow's Supreme Council, panic erupts as they detect the American launch and prepare to retaliate. But Tae-in instantly teleports in, telling them there is no need for war. The Russian guards open fire immediately, but just like before, the protagonist blocks the barrage with effortless dominance. As the guards tremble in confusion, a report comes in from the United States confirming that all monster portals have been obliterated. Tae-in stands before them, declaring that he has saved the world, sarcastically thanking them for their trust and for the generous donation of their bombs. The president, regaining his senses, asks what just happened, and the protagonist explains that the nukes didn't impact reality, but simply erased the portals from existence. Relieved and awestruck, the room erupts in gratitude toward the mysterious Korean hero. Tae-in reminds them that stray monsters still roam the streets, so they should work hard, before using his teleportation skill to vanish, wishing the U.S. good luck as he fades away. Back in Korea, Cha Yeon-ma obliterates a monster with a powerful kick, and the protagonist appears, praising her form. The girls notice his return, and Yunya snaps at him, asking if he has any idea how close they came to death while he was gone. She points out that missiles just annihilated the portal, and asks suspiciously if that crazy stunt was his doing. Tae-in confirms the strike was his handiwork, and notes that the bully is adjusting well to her role, but remarks that they still need someone to serve as the party's tank, just as an explosion rocks the ground behind them. The girls shield their eyes from the dust as a blinding light descends, and a constellation manifests, declaring that the actions of Earth's transcendent have disturbed the cosmic order. The entity identifies herself as Udorina of Justice, announcing that she has descended to judge him for his sins. The group is stunned by the divine appearance, but Tae-in simply smirks, thinking he has finally found his meat shield, while Cha Yeon-ma trembles at the energy of a true master. The protagonist orders his teammate to stay back and calls out to his system, questioning the notification about divine seats, recalling that he had blocked all Constellation-related content. He mutters that there might be a glitch, realizing the system is behaving unpredictably. It wasn't that he despised the constellations. He simply hadn't had time for their drama while he was busy slaughtering the monsters flooding Earth. Udu Rainey sneers at his excuse. That arrogance is exactly the problem. Humanity hasn't bled enough, and the blame lies squarely on Tae-in's shoulders. Tae-in scoffs in disbelief, Humanity hasn't been sacrificed? Is she blind? The gates tearing open the sky, the monsters pouring out, the oceans of blood spilled by innocent civilians. All of that was orchestrated by these so-called gods? Udureni nods coldly. A system notification flashes. World explanation initiated. Every living soul generates a specific energy the constellations devour to survive. Nentropy. That is the sole reason for humanity's creation, to be livestock. The smarter the species and the stronger their will, the richer the harvest of nentropy becomes. To cultivate this energy, they force-feed species through trials. The survivors evolve into premium fuel, while the weak perish to fertilize the next generation. But Tae-in ruined the harvest. By crushing the tutorial solo, he denied humanity the collective trauma needed to evolve. The constellations are desperate to watch his anomaly unfold. But since he blocked their broadcast, the celestial galleries are in an uproar. That is why she descended to pass judgment personally. Tae-in rolls his eyes. This is utter nonsense. She dumps this cosmic exposition on him out of nowhere? It feels like a bad sci-fi plot twist. Yuna looks around, utterly lost in the technical jargon. Tae-in sighs and calls out to Uljin. Summarize her monologue for me. 3 lines. Go. The burger lover steps up. For the viewers who skip the cutscene. 1. Constellations are essentially energy vampires. 2. They open the gates to farm us for food. 3. You ruined their show, and now they're throwing a cosmic tantrum. Tae-in shakes his head. So they're completely insane. Layla steps up, rage flaring, but Chonma holds her back. Do not interfere, the demonic master warns. She is beyond your realm. Ignoring the danger, Tae-in triggers his void emergence. Dark energy swirls, condensing not into a beam, but a physical blade forged from the void itself. A space sword. He lunges at Uduraini. I'm sick of you star freaks. His sword-class traits ignite, amplifying the strike with lethal intent. A storm of dimensional slashes rains down on the goddess. Uduraini barely lifts her weapon, deflecting the onslaught with terrifying ease. Tae-in's eyes widen. That blade erases existence itself. It shouldn't be blockable, yet she parried it like a toy. Is this the transcendent of Earth? She mocks. Disappointing. Tae-in lands, dusting himself off. Is that all the dialogue you have? He grins. Planetary explosion activates. A blinding light engulfs the battlefield, painting Uduraini's stoic face in hues of destruction. The beam shears through the atmosphere, erasing matter instantly. But Uduraini stands amidst the ruin, unscathed. Not bad, she murmurs. Tae-in clicks his tongue. He needs more firepower. He initiates multicasting, forcefully triggering a crisis state to boost his stats. Come on, he roars. Let's give the audience the dopamine-fueled action spectacle they want. Asterisk, slash, asterisk. Before he can blink, his right hand vanishes. Tae-in stares at the stump, his brain lagging behind reality. Accept your judgment, Uduraini commands. The pain hits. Tae-in screams, instantly triggering time reversal. It doesn't matter. He can reset. He will rewind the clock 1,000 times if he has to. He just needs to find the perfect run. The world rewinds, but Uduraini is moving. She isn't frozen. Fool, she sneers. Cosmic entities exist outside the flow of time. Your petty distortions cannot bind a constellation. He snaps back to the moment Xianma warned him. Tae-in freezes, sweat dripping. Okay, she's actually strong. What was the author thinking making a boss this broken? Uduraini glares. My patience wears thin, human. Submit to the verdict. What judgment? Tae-in demands. In answer, golden light coalesces in Uduraini's palm. The light takes shape, the scales of justice. Tae-in's breath hitches. He knows that artifact. These scales weigh universal law, she intones. They calculate objective worth. Tae-in grinds his teeth. Enough with the lectures. I will demonstrate, Uduraini declares. We shall weigh your benefit to the cosmos against the threat you pose to its order. Let us see which reality is heavier. Tae-in narrows his eyes. Which side is which? Uduraini glances down. The scale slams down heavily on one side. The threat weighs greater. You are a cancer to the system. The scales do not lie. Their truth is absolute. She raises her weapon. Therefore, you must be erased. Tae-in pauses. Then, a wicked grin splits his face. Absolute truth, huh? If that toy can judge anything. I have a suggestion. Uduraini tilts her head. Speak, though human concerns are dust to me. Before you delete me, Tae-in says, pointing at the artifact. Solve one of humanity's greatest debates. Weigh this on your scales. The constellation hesitates. Bound by her own rules, she nods. I cannot refuse a challenge of truth. What value do you wish to measure? What are you doing? Yuna screams. Tae-in chuckles, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Don't worry. Who could resist a round of the universal balance game? He breaks the tension with a question that catches everyone off guard. Which webtoon mana fantasy is better? The plus 99 reinforced stick? Or, what can I do alone? The Constellation of Justice, Udrine, blinks in confusion. The other girls are equally lost. Even Il-jin, usually sharp, has no idea what he is talking about. She asks, "What did you just say?" Tae-in sighs, his face deadly serious. He repeats the question, demanding to know which of the two fictional mana systems is more fun to read about. Yuna stares blankly. What are those things? Tae-in looks at her with pity. You don't know these masterpieces? Sell me your brain. She frowns. There is no way to sell a brain. Tae-in waves his hand dismissively. Then just use a skill to wipe your own memories. I would give anything to experience those stories for the first time again. Il-jin steps in, whispering to the cosmic entity. Ignore him. He is obsessed with webtoons. But Udrine is genuinely baffled. She has no concept of these earthly entertainments. Tae-in leans forward, his eyes burning with passion. They are the most fun things humans ever invented. The Constellation scoffs coldly. I do not judge based on trivial emotions like fun. Tae-in shakes his head. For a high and mighty constellation, you know nothing about this world. There is nothing more important than fun. He realizes she needs a simpler explanation. Fine. Let me bring this down to your level for a second. The air around them changes instantly. Udrine flinches, wondering why his mood shifted from playful to intimidating in a heartbeat. Tae-in's voice drops an octave. You are the Constellation of Justice. You maintain the order of the universe. Udrine nods slowly. Correct. If the order is broken, the consequences are beyond prediction. Tae-in traps her with her own words. So, by your own logic, you were planning to sacrifice me based on consequences you can't even guess? Udrine stands frozen, speechless. Tae-in cuts her off before she can argue. You were about to say, small sacrifices for the greater good are inevitable, right? But from the cosmic perspective, talking about the order of the universe is biased in itself. It might seem fair from where you sit in the stars, but from a human perspective, it is absolute tyranny. Udrine narrows her eyes. Are you claiming to be more important than the universe itself? Tae-in points a finger at her artifact. That is what those scales are for, forcing me to sacrifice myself. Is it fair or unfair? Weigh it. The goddess creates two weights on her golden scales. Slowly, the balance shifts. It tips heavily, slamming down on the side of unfair. Yuna gasps. What just happened? Tae-in smirks. The result was obvious from the start. Udrine stares at the scales, completely stunned. Tae-in presses his advantage. Do you still intend to restrain me? Do you still claim I am a threat to universal order? Udrine lowers her head in defeat. You are correct. I understand now. My judgment was unfair to you. Layla watches in awe. Master Tae-in is terrified smart. Yuna scratches her head, admitting she still has no clue what is going on. Tae-in explains. Justice changes depending on your perspective. He then looks the goddess in the eye. I have a suggestion for the Constellation of Justice. If you are so worried about me breaking the universal order, then keep an eye on me. Stay by my side. I never planned to mess with the order. I just got angry knowing the constellations attacked humanity first. Besides, helping the weak is your duty, isn't it? Udrine's eyes light up. That is incredibly rational. A clever point. I promise to stay by your side. Cheon-ma watches in disbelief. He turned a cosmic being into an ally with just his charisma, but Tae-in raises a finger. One more thing. Do you think it is fair for the constellations to open gates on Earth and slaughter human lives? Udrine is dumbfounded. She stays silent for a few seconds, looking down. She summons two spheres and places them on the scales of judgment. The scales move instantly. The side of humanity drops. We are in the right. Udrine remains silent, a heavy sigh escaping her lips. Tae-in grows irritated. Well? She suddenly shoots into the sky, leaving the planet's atmosphere. She begins a massive chant to cleanse the invasions. Across the world, a giant elephant monster is chasing humans, ready to exterminate them. But suddenly, it freezes. The humans turn around. The monster vanishes into dust, along with every other beast on the planet. Udrine finishes her spell, Sacred Purification. Layla covers her eyes as a blinding light erupts from within the planet. Cheon-ma shudders, sensing the shift. All the demonic energy. It vanished in an instant. Tae-in grins. That is to be expected from a constellation. It was a legendary moment. Udrine lands, murmuring that she felt manipulated, but Tae-in brushes it off. Protecting Earth was just a piece of cake for you. Besides, he just gained an incredible powerhouse for his party. Suddenly, Udrine changes her form. The entire group blushes instantly at her new outfit. Tae-in averts his eyes. What are you doing? Udrine answers innocently. I took off my armor. I am not in combat anymore. She is practically naked. Tae-in shouts. Put something on. He snaps his fingers, using transformation magic to weave a casual outfit for her, thinking, she is too beautiful. Eudrine looks at the clothes and frowns. She starts taking off the shirt. Why should I wear this? It has zero defense. But Tae-in stops her. Keep the clothes on when you need to be dressed. It's common sense. Eudrine complains. Humans are incomprehensible. Suddenly, the system window pops up in front of Tae-in. Mr. Pervert. Meanwhile, deep in the cosmos, the other constellations boil with rage. Even the constellation of justice has been corrupted. The real war is just beginning. Tae-in is absolutely done with these humans. They should be the ones raging. Yet here he is, forced to go crush them himself. But the system interrupts his warpath. The Tower Master demands a face-to-face meeting immediately. Yu Do-rin reveals the dark truth swirling in the background. There have been heated discussions about the Tower Master upsetting the balance by gifting a random skill to a villain. Because of this corruption, the system intervenes. It declares it will escort Tae-in directly to the dimension of eternal night. If that is the case, Tae-in decides it is time for a little chat. As the teleportation begins, he shouts for the system to wait. He has finally found worthy companions, and leaving them behind now would be a tragic waste of potential. Cheon-ma is bewildered by his unilateral decision, while Layla panics, demanding to know exactly where he is dragging them. Tae-in feigns ignorance, acting as if the system is dragging them along against his will. He whispers for it to hurry up, and the system initiates the warp to the dimension of eternal night. A blinding light engulfs the party, erasing them from the spot instantly. Space warps around them as they travel through the light, materializing inside a foreboding castle moments later. Yuna looks around in confusion, while Il-jun fights off a wave of nausea. Tae-in realizes they have reached the pinnacle of the Tower of Trials. Just as the Tower Master speaks, welcoming the Constellation of Justice, the Master's voice echoes, claiming it is an honor to receive such a prestigious guest in his broken-down domain. This is Sugushi Nujo, the Tower Master. It has been an age since he last laid eyes on such a sight, and he turns his gaze to the companions tagging along. His demeanor shifts instantly. He questions how mere insects dared to defile this sacred ground, threatening to tear their limbs from their bodies and end their pathetic lives. A terrifying killing intent explodes from him, suffocating the entire group in sheer dread. Ah-young cries out for her mother, and Il-jun laments not eating one last hamburger before the end. But Tae-in? He just cracks a smirk. So this is it, he murmurs. This is the first true boss raid they will face as a full team. To the protagonist, this isn't a death sentence, it is just another video game level. A wild grin spreads across his face. This is going to be a lot of fun. Layla looks at him like he is insane, while Yuna begs to go home. The protagonist assures them there is no need to panic. If they work together, victory is within reach. But before he can finish, Sugushi moves. He seizes Tae-in by the throat, demanding to know how he dares to step on the tower's summit without clearing the lower floors. Tae-in sighs internally, wondering if he is really in a position to get beaten up again. Sugushi slams him into the ground. The Tower Master demands to know how much longer Tae-in plans to insult him, listing his sins: ignorant, arrogant, cunning, selfish, and stubborn. He continues the tirade, calling him irresponsible, vulgar, and every other curse word in the book. While Tae-in wonders when this lecture will end, Sugushi delivers the final verdict. Tae-in only cares about himself. He blasts him with point-blank energy, and the shockwave tears into the protagonist. Tae-in groans, his body screaming in pain from the overwhelming damage. Sugushi vows to make him pay for every ounce of pain he should have suffered over the years, promising to extract it slowly. The girls on the team watch in paralyzed horror. The Tower Master sneers, pitying them for following such a leader to their deaths. But suddenly, Cheon-ma warns him that he is the one going to hell. She flashes behind the Tower Master, unleashing her heavenly demon destruction seal. The impact shakes Sugushi, but he simply scoffs, noting how unfair this seems. He repels the blow effortlessly, though he admits he is impressed she withstood the recoil despite not being a transcendent. Too bad, he mocks. You should curse the pervert who dragged you into your own grave. He turns to Yu Do-rin, apologizing that she had to witness such a deplorable display of violence. The Constellation argues back. This is not the way to treat a human who cleared the tower according to the rules. But Sugushi counters coldly, he is a being who serves the constellations. And since the Constellation of Wrath finds this man's existence offensive, Sugushi is merely fulfilling his responsibility to eliminate him. The protagonist's ears perk up at the mention of the Constellation of Wrath. Yu Do-rin admits he has a fair point. A heavy silence falls. Everyone except her is thinking the exact same thing. This is their last day alive. We definitely won't die, Tae-in declares. With a surge of strength, he frees himself from Sugushi's grip. The Tower Master steps back in disbelief. There is no way this is happening. He demands to know how a mere human escaped his authority. The protagonist retorts that Sugushi is the ignorant one. In a battle story like this, it is only natural for the hero to counterattack after tanking a few hits. He channels his power into Cheon Ma. She gasps, asking what that energy was, but the protagonist tells her to remember that fear she just felt. When you feel like you are about to die, that means you absolutely will not lose, he explains. Especially when the health bar turns red. Yudorin watches in awe, finding it incredible that a human can stand toe-to-toe with the Tower Master so effortlessly. Sugushi admits he underestimated him, but his eyes narrow with malice. He was wrong about one thing. Your companions will definitely die, he roars, expanding his aura to obliterate the rest of the team. The protagonist intercepts the blast, blocking it with his own energy. Targeting the support team first? He scoffs. That is just cunning. Sugushi stares wide-eyed. How did he get this strong? This human is at least 10,000 times more powerful than predicted. Tae-in smiles. He can finally say it. You think that was my limit? Tae-in scoffs. Back when that monster was banging on the school window, I was barely using 1/1,000,000th of my true power. The truth is, he had gotten a little too excited about his awakening and wanted to show off. To keep things fair, he had intentionally placed a limiter on his own catastrophic strength. A blue window flashes before his eyes. The system notifies him. Limiter released to 100%. Tae-in realizes he now possesses the power to send entire continents flying. Yet strangely, he felt weaker when fighting Yudo-Reni earlier. Tae-in smirks and apologizes to the audience. Sorry, but this guy is stronger than I thought. I can't waste any more time dragging this scene out for screen time. He activates his ultimate skill, Shock Hit. With blinding speed, he pierces through Suguchi not once, but twice. The Tower Master's eyes widen in disbelief. This should be impossible. But Tae-in stands over him, declaring that Soguchi's reign of selfishness and stubbornness ends right here. Panic sets in. The Tower Master screams at Yudo-Reni, insisting this is all wrong. That power originally came from him, it should never be able to surpass its master. Desperate, he begs her to save him. But Tae-in silences him with a brutal punch to the face. He scolds the pitiful boss, telling him to stop being irresponsible and clean up his own mess. Though, to be fair, saying something cool like that makes Tae-in look like a bit of an arrogant jerk too. Suguchi screams in agony as his form begins to flicker. He warns them that if he is destroyed, chaos will engulf the tower and the dimension itself. The very order of the universe will shatter. Tae-in doesn't care. He slashes down, cutting the entity in half while muttering, "You're annoying." Suguchi coughs up blood, his body disintegrating into light, swearing that Tae-in will regret this forever. Regret? Not likely. Tae-in just celebrates the fact that he finally took down a superpowered boss. Yudo-Reni stands frozen in shock. How did he defeat a cosmic entity so quickly? The speed was so godlike she didn't even have a chance to intervene. Tae-in turns back with a sheepish grin, apologizing for making them worry, but his friends immediately explode in anger, yelling that his irresponsibility almost got them all killed. Tae-in raises a hand, telling them to hold on a second. He hasn't even finished his speech about the villain's selfishness yet. This moment will haunt him forever, and the girls are convinced he's the selfish one. But suddenly, Tae-in's attention shifts to a system notification. He has defeated the first cosmic entity. Reward granted. Ascension is now available. Tae-in's eyes light up with greed. It looks like a massive power-up that will drastically enhance his combat abilities. It sounds like fun. He wonders just how many stages are left to conquer. But Yudo-Reni interrupts his daydreaming, asking gravely if he realizes what he has just done. By taking the Tower Master's life, he has officially declared war. He is now the enemy of every single constellation in existence. Tae-in shrugs casually. So, should I have just let myself die like Suguchi said? Yudo-Reni quickly shakes her head. No, that's not what she meant. Then it doesn't matter. Tae-in smiles confidently. Even if all the constellations are against him, he's gained her as an ally. Yudo-Reni blushes, asking, since when? But Tae-in smoothly changes the subject. He has a new target. He wants to find the entity the Tower Master mentioned earlier, the Constellation of Wrath. Yudo-Reni looks at him in horror. Is he seriously planning to fight the Constellation of Wrath? Tae-in shakes his head. No fighting. He just wants to try his luck with a little dialogue. She sighs, accepting his answer. Meanwhile, Yuna watches from the side, thinking that this guy is simply a hopeless idiot. Tae-in declares that this is his destiny. Yudo-Reni has no doubt he will protect universal peace alongside the Constellation of Justice, but for now, they need to go home. A brilliant light envelops the group, beginning the teleportation sequence out of the tower. Something goes wrong. While the others vanish, Tae-in and Yudo-Reni aren't affected by the standard space-time shift. They materialize in a completely different location. Tae-in looks around, confused. Where are we? Yudo-Reni's face pales as she recognizes the landscape. This is the domain of the Constellation of Wrath Huja Karuna. The heat is unbearable. They realize with horror that they are standing right in the center of an active volcano. Yuna groans, asking why he keeps dragging her into these messes. Tae-in grins, claiming that having his friends around gives him strength. The girls immediately tell him to cut the cheesy anime talk. However, sweet Layla actually believes him. Yuna looks at her incredulously, asking why she falls for his nonsense every time. Suddenly, a maniacal laughter echoes through the chamber. Everyone freezes. Sensing the danger, Yudo Reni instantly summons her battle armor. Huja Karuna speaks, his voice booming. How bold to bring these insects into my domain. He crashes down from the sky, an explosion of power destroying everything in his path. Clang! He strikes Yudo Reni's sword with devastating force, calling her an insolent fool. She grits her teeth, struggling to resist the pressure as she screams Huja Karuna's name. The Constellation sneers, noting it has been a long time since he last saw her, until a fist comes flying out of nowhere. Bam! Tae-in lands a solid punch right on the god's face. He glares at the entity, warning him not to touch his friends. His companions watch in stunned awe. Yudo Reni stammers, I thought you wanted to solve this with dialogue? Tae-in shrugs, saying she doesn't need to thank him. He only stepped in because she was struggling to resist on her own. She explains the terrifying truth. Huja Karuna cannot control his rage. He was born with an unquenchable thirst for violence. A flashback flickers. Huja Karuna appears in the void, gazing at a distant world. He asks if that is the designated planet. It was a landscape of breathtaking beauty, capturing his dark heart. He decided right then and there this would be his favorite world. But then, rage boiled over. He became furious that he had only just discovered such beauty now. Boom! He smashed the ground with godlike force, shattering the planet from one side to the other. Huja Karuna laments, complaining that it always ends this way. Why is he always so angry? Back in the present, Tae-in looks unimpressed. So, you're just stupid. Huja Karuna's eyes blaze with fury. How dares a mere insect lay a hand on me? The volcano responds to his mood. Magma surges, and the lava in the territory begins to spread uncontrollably. Yudo Reni realizes the catastrophic danger. This entire dimension is linked to Huja Karuna's emotions. If his anger truly explodes, this volcano, and everyone in it, will be incinerated instantly. The magma here wasn't just hot rock. It was liquid fury born from the obsidian of wrath, capable of incinerating anything. Yet, Tae-in casually asks, so, are we in big trouble if this lava rises? In that case, Tae-in sighs. He decides to cool things down literally. He triggers his ultimate countermeasure. Absolute zero magic. Tae-in manages to encase the raging Huja Karuna in a prison of glacial ice. But the victory is short-lived. The sheer heat of the Constellation's fury shatters the ice instantly. Yudo Reni cries out in despair. It's useless. He is the embodiment of wrath itself. We can't stop him. But Tae-in cuts her off, shouting, enough with the long-winded explanations. Their fists collide, sending shockwaves through the dimension. Tae-in grits his teeth. This constellation is a monster on a completely different level than the Tower Master he crushed before. Huja Karuna grins maniacally, confusion mixing with bloodlust. What is this freezing sensation? I like it, but it only makes me angrier. Tae-in is confused by the monster's rambling, but suddenly a chime rings out. System. Activating empathy skill. In a flash, their consciousnesses merge. The connection is instant. Huja Karuna pauses, startled by the intrusion. What is this inside my head? Disconnect now, Yudo Reni warns. It's too dangerous, but Tae-in refuses to back down. It's fine. I can calm him down from the inside while we're linked. The constellation shudders. These emotions. I've never felt such things in my mind before. It feels good. Too good. And that makes me furious. Yudo Reni screams in panic. This is bad. Pull back, Tae-in. His rage is consuming you. What is wrong with you? Tae-in severs the link violently, gasping for air. Okay, that definitely didn't feel right. Look, sorry for blocking your DMs and punching you first, Tae-in offers, trying to negotiate. Can't we just talk this out? The answer is a massive fist, flying straight for his face. You talk too much for a failure, the constellation sneers. Tae-in blinks, the insult landing harder than the punch. A failure? Me? Huja Karuna seizes him by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. Your world's entropy value is too low. That is why we must annihilate you and reset the system. Yudo Reni tries to intervene, horror dawning on her face. Then, the portal wasn't a test for humanity? It was an execution? The monster smirks. Exactly. So annoying. Tae-in sighs, shaking his head. Stop with the exposition dumps. You're wearing out the audience's ears. Suddenly, energy erupts around him. System. Activating Ascension Stage 1. Boom, a shockwave blasts Huja Karuna backward. The Planet Buster ability has been unleashed. Tae-in stands amidst the swirling aura, looking down at his foe. Your logic means nothing to me. I'm going to be the main character of the greatest webtoon of all time. Huja Karuna tumbles through the air, his mind racing. How? How can a mere insect possess power that rivals a 10-star constellation? Tae-in glances at his reflection in a shard of ice. His hair and eyes glow with a mystical hue. So, this is the first purple stage. Huja Karuna recovers, roaring like a crashing meteor as he charges. I will end your miserable life right now. Enough with the exclamation points. Tae-in groans. He lands a devastating cross on the god's jaw, shouting, "Cut it out already." Impossible. Huja Karuna tries to block, thinking he's safe. He poured every ounce of strength into defense, yet it felt like nothing against Tae-in's power. Tae-in presses the attack, I said. Asterisk, bam. Asterisk, stop screaming. Asterisk, smash. Asterisk. With every word, he obliterates another piece of Huja Karuna's physical form. Just go down quietly. This is supposed to be entertaining, not annoying. With a casual flick of his wrist, Tae-in hurls the massive god into the distance. Huja Karuna hits the ground, out cold. Yudurani stares, trembling in awe. A human has just taken the life of a celestial constellation? It was a collapse of the cosmic order. But then, a chilling sound. Huja Karuna rises from the debris, laughing maniacally. That was fun, the entity cackles. I should have unleashed this sooner. Tae-in narrows his eyes. Phase 2 already? A villain laughing like that is never a good sign. Huja Karuna points a trembling finger. It seems your little friends couldn't handle the heat. They look lifeless. Don't you dare talk about them, Tae-in growls, spinning around, but he freezes. The intense heat has left the girls collapsed on the scorched earth. Yudurani gasps. It's his passive ability. As his anger grows, the heat intensifies. He's getting stronger by the second. The constellation sneers, looking down on them. Why does justice waste time with these insects? You will all be extinct soon enough. Tae-in flares his aura, deflecting the pressure. You're just spouting garbage. But Huja Karuna grins. You can't stop the apocalypse, insect. My plan is already in motion. I have unleashed the rage virus upon your precious planet. Tae-in's eyes widen in shock. What are you talking about? From this moment on, the god declares with malicious glee, every living soul on Earth carries the infection. They will lose their minds. They will tear each other apart until nothing remains. Pure fury detonates within Tae-in's chest. Huja Karuna, Tae-in screams, shaking the heavens. Tae-in, stop, Yudurani cries. The volcano is erupting. We need to teleport now. Tae-in cocks his fist, desperate to land one final killing blow, but the teleportation spell begins to dissolve his form. A pillar of light swallows them just as the dimension explodes into magma. As they warp through the void, Tae-in curses the constellation's name. We have to get to Earth. We have to stop the virus, Tae-in yells. We're already on our way, Yudurani assures him. She bites her lip, realization washing over her. This wasn't a test for humanity. It was never a fair chance. It was a rigged game designed for total slaughter. Is this what they call justice? She wonders. The light bursts in the sky, depositing them back on Earth's soil. Tae-in instantly casts healing magic on his team. Are you guys okay? I'm so sorry. This is my fault. Suddenly, a guttural growl interrupts him. An enraged human stands nearby. The human lunges. Tae-in effortlessly dodges the snapping teeth. What the hell is this now? He looks up and freezes. Hundreds of infected monsters are sprinting straight toward them. The protagonist realizes the true nature of the Constellation of Wrath's first trial. It isn't just a battle. It is a zombie apocalypse. Humans are creatures defined by purpose. They live to explore the very meaning of their existence. Biologically, they are mere primates, distinguished only by high intelligence. Tools and language are their weapons of choice. But above all, they are social creatures. Without the complex web of society, humanity crumbles. If intelligence fades, can you still call them human? No. They become something else entirely. They become zombies. The rage virus has stripped humanity of its soul. The girls stare in confusion. Suddenly, the infected horde charges at Yuna. But Tae-in flashes forward, shielding her from the onslaught. This scenario is wrong, he mutters. In an instant, his body crackles with raw electricity. Lightning arcs through the zombies. Their bodies spasm in panic. Tae-in smirks. This is how you handle them. You don't kill. You cure. He turns, casual as ever. You okay, Yuna? But her eyes blaze with fury. What the hell are you doing? Do you think this is a game? Tae-in sighs. Don't start with the lecture. Asterisk, smack. Asterisk. A sharp slap cuts him off, stinging his cheek. Her voice trembles with rage. Are you insane? Do you have any idea how many times we nearly died just by being near you? Tae-in rubs his cheek. I just wanted to save. Save me? She screams. You shouldn't have brought me to this hellhole in the first place. Back in that inferno, we were burning alive. Our only thought was the terror of dying without ever seeing our parents again. Tears well in her eyes. Do you have any concept of that horror? Of course not. You're the one watching from above. If this is your twisted idea of fun, then go to hell. To you, we're just tools to show off your power. If you were truly strong, you would have solved this alone or actually protected us. She glares at him, broken. Is this what you call companions? You take lives without blinking. That isn't fun. It's monstrous. Tae-in shrugs, his expression unreadable. That is simply how zombie narratives function. What? Yuna screams, her patience shattering. You said it's a virus. That means there's a cure. She points a trembling finger at the horde. So save them. All of them. Tae-in falls silent. Do you think I'm crazy enough to slaughter them all? Realization dawns on her. The electricity didn't kill them. It paralyzed them. He has the power to treat them instantly, but he held back. Why? Because he refuses to be the boring protagonist who resolves every crisis with a snap of his fingers. The girls look at him like he's an alien. Tae-in waves his hand dismissively. Relax. I won't let it go too far. Behind you. Yun-A's warning comes too late. Asterisk chomp. Asterisk. Tae-in spins around, shaking the zombie off his arm. That actually scared me. He binds the creature in midair with magic. Yun-A's face pales. Are you going to turn? Tae-in scoffs. Please. It's just a minor virus. He activates his splendid healing ability. Light envelops the wound, but the flesh does not knit together. His smile fades. What is this? He invokes the Seraphim's blessing. Still, nothing happens. Uriel's voice cuts through the air. There is no other choice. This virus carries the authority of a constellation. I cannot interfere. Her gaze turns cold. Cut off your arm, before the rage consumes you. What are you talking about? Tae-in snaps. I'm already feeling pissed off. Uriel powers up her blade, ready to strike. Wait! Tae-in shouts. Don't do it! Panic sets in. I'm the protagonist. This plot twist makes no sense. Just because I'm too strong, the story is stalling? Realization hits him. This is a forced balancing patch by the developers. He screams, I am so angry right now. The rage draws the horde closer. Uriel raises her sword. Forgive me. But suddenly, Cheonma steps in. Do not touch him. The heavenly demon stands firm. We must return him to normal first. Iljan nods in agreement. Layla points frantically. They're coming. Uriel glares at Cheonma. Step aside. This is for the sake of the cosmic order. The cultivator prepares for battle. No time. Yuna yells. We need to move before this pervert transforms completely. Iljan looks at the sea of undead. How? We are surrounded. Yuna grits her teeth. I have a plan. She turns to the angel. Uriel, can you transport us? As the zombies close in, light engulfs them. They materialize inside the school. Immediately, Uriel binds Tae-in to a chair with her ethereal prison. The girls catch their breath. He's trapped, Layla whispers. I feel bad for Tae-in. But if we kill the host of Wrath now, the virus should vanish. Uriel shakes her head grimly. Impossible. The constellations are protected by the cosmic order. They cannot die. The room falls silent. There must be another way to purge the corruption. Cheonma observes Tae-in, who is thrashing in his bonds. He is in a state of chi deviation, delirium. She raises a needle. Perhaps acupuncture can resolve this. She strikes his pressure points with lightning speed. The protagonist coughs up a violent spray of crimson, leaving Cheonma completely bewildered by the sudden collapse. Iljun shakes his head, declaring that this guy is an absolute disaster. Yurin scoffs, doubting that cheap parlor tricks can suppress the overwhelming power of a constellation. But Tae-in grins through the pain. He feels truly alive as fresh blood finally surges to his brain. Her jaw drops at the recovery, while Cheonma smirks in triumph. Layla shouts for him to snap out of it, but Tae-in shakes his head. There is no time for sanity. He needs to lose his mind all over again. He curses his fate. What good is a main character who can't use a single skill? He frantically analyzes the author's intent until it hits him. He realizes exactly how this twisted episode is scripted to play out. He announces his imminent death. His mind flashes to a classic apocalypse manhwa scene. A hero screaming for his team to run. A blonde girl refuses to leave his side, crying about their promise. But the green-haired man reveals the grim truth: he was bitten hours ago. With a heavy heart, he says his final goodbyes. The girl denies reality as the chapter fades to black. Back in the real world, Tae-in is bawling his eyes out. Even though the sacrifice was cliché, the tears wouldn't stop. He slams the 10-star rating button and leaves a glowing comment. Such noble spirit, such selflessness. He praises the character, noting that this level of heroism can't be taught in schools. Then he goes right back to loudly slurping his instant ramen. Back in the present, Tae-in clenches his fist. Before he transforms, he will sacrifice himself for the squad. The girls stare at him like he's crazy. He insists this is his tragic finale before the zombie virus takes over. But Layla isn't buying a word of his dramatic monologue. She demands to know why he's acting like a martyr when he's surrounded by powerhouses. Tae-in tries to argue, but Yuna sighs, realizing he's stuck in his tragic hero complex again. She snaps at him to stop. They aren't helpless damsels who need saving. Tae-in pauses. This wasn't the script he imagined, but they had a point. Their party is so overpowered that zombies are basically cannon fodder. With humanity already wiped out, there is no thrill in finding survivors anyway. They might as well just slaughter the undead and move on. He needs to rewrite the plot before madness consumes him. Suddenly, Layla's stomach growls. Cheonma realizes she hasn't eaten all day. Yuna admits she is starving too. Slowly, 3 pairs of hungry eyes turn toward Iljun. He screams in terror. Cheonma licks her lips, designating him as emergency rations, while Iljun begs them to stay back. He shouts for them to wait. He produces a stash of hamburger buns, saving his own skin just in time. Yuna tilts her head, puzzled by the strange food. Cheonma shrugs and tears into the package. One of the girls notes that fast food tends to exit the body as quickly as it enters. Layla asks if Iljun minds them, devouring his friends. The buns remain silent, so the feast begins. The 3 girls devour the burgers. For these warriors from medieval Europe and ancient China, the artificial flavor of Korean junk food is pure magic. Meanwhile, inside the room, Yurin checks on his condition. Tae-in thanks her for the restraints. She shakes her head grimly. She regrets taking him to see Huja Karuna, a decision that has condemned him to suffer until his final breath. The protagonist wonders if there is any hope left. But the Constellation speaks up. She refuses to let him fall. What happened was unjust, a twisting of fate she intends to correct. Tae-in smiles, grateful for her resolve. Yurin urges him to hold on. His powerful allies will find a cure. Just then, the girls burst in, raving about the microwaved burgers. The room goes dead silent. Suddenly, Tae-in explodes. The frustration is too much to bear. Yurin pins him down, warning that his resistance is strengthening the madness. Cheonma sighs at the hopeless sight. She needs him to revert to his original form. Ever since she was trapped in this state, her martial arts have been stifled. In this weakened body, controlling her internal energy is a struggle. But then, she freezes. Her senses expand. She detects a pure energy signature from a nearby house, someone untouched by the madness. Yurin argues, that's impossible, the rage virus spared no one. Her sensory abilities have never failed her before. But Cheonma walks to the window, her eyes narrowing. She is never wrong. 2 kilometers away, a perfect human is approaching. And if you listen closely, you can hear the stranger's very breath. Yurin focuses her mind, terrified of what that presence might be. Layla asks about survivors, and Yuna grimly explains that the infected are technically alive too. Yurin trembles. It's getting closer, but for the first time, she has no idea what is coming for them. Layla declares that the entity before them is in grave peril. Tae-in's rage intensifies, exploding outward as the Constellation relentlessly suppresses his spirit. She warns that his fluctuating power now rivals that of a cosmic calamity. If left unchecked, the pervert will single-handedly obliterate the Earth. Therefore, she must remain behind to restrain the beast. The others must handle the mission on their own. Cheonma bursts through the window with Iljun tucked securely in her arms. Layla shouts a final command, while Yuna questions if abandoning them like this is truly the right path. But Cheonma is already gone, leaping across the city skyline with godlike agility. Iljun demands to know why he was chosen for this abduction. Cheonma replies that he understands the logic of this world, and honestly, the burger is light enough to carry without effort. Cheonma descends gracefully in front of a residential house, sensing the aura of a purely peaceful soul residing within. Iljun scoffs, noting that with the heavenly demon Cheonma by his side, even a zombie apocalypse feels trivial. He wonders if the inhabitants will even open the door in this chaos. But given the changed world, the front door is likely irrelevant. Cheonma ignores the layout, claiming ignorance of floor plans, and simply infiltrates a room through the window. Iljun is left baffled by her casual defiance of physics. Cheonma scans the interior, questioning if this is truly a living space. Yet, from behind a closed door, she hears the steady, rhythmic breathing of someone untouched by the madness. She swings the door open and freezes in shock. Iljun peers over, confused by what could possibly stun a martial artist. The room is a shrine, plastered with posters of various webtoons. Cheonma asks what kind of mystic talismans these are, but Iljun explains they are merely strange fan merchandise. Suddenly, the figure in the bed stirs. Cheonma instinctively flares her cultivator energy for battle, but Iljun frantically signals for her to hold. The sleeper rises from the sheets. It is a young girl, groggily waking up to a room full of intruders. Iljun is instantly struck by Cupid's arrow. proclaiming her an unparalleled beauty. Cheonma ruthlessly slams him into the floor, disgusted by his disgraceful behavior. The girl stares blankly, reasoning that a floating hamburger and a celestial spirit maiden are sights that could only exist inside a manhwa. The duo is taken aback by her nonchalance, realizing she possesses the same unbothered energy as Tae-in. The girl muses that this feels exactly like a scene from a webtoon. Cheonma asks if all citizens of this nation share this delusion, but Iljin assures her this is a unique case. The girl claps her hands, celebrating the appearance of a female Cheonma and a talking burger. She introduces herself simply as Lee Nara. Iljin asks if she has been skipping school. Cheonma wonders if they share a past, but the burger explains that Lee Nara is a local legend. She held a notorious title at school. Flashbacks reveal a teacher handing out exams, instructing the class president to pass the paper to Nara, who was fast asleep. The class president could only stare in bewilderment. It was a marvel. No one had ever seen her eyes open, yet she scored top marks on every exam. Iljin confirms she was the #1 sleepyhead genius. She literally slept through her entire education. Lee Nara nods in agreement but points out that today was supposed to be the school's foundation anniversary. Iljin realizes that is why the school was empty. Cheonma connects the dots. This girl was napping while dimensional gates opened and monsters overran the city. Lee Nara smiles, convinced this is all a vivid lucid dream, a fantasy featuring hunters and portals. Cheonma seizes her arm, insisting they depart. Nara asks to be carried, citing fatigue, and the cultivator realizes this girl really is the female equivalent of Tae-in. They take flight toward the school, unaware that a shadowed figure watches their departure with keen interest. Yuna spots them from the classroom window, announcing the return of their heavy hitter. Cheonma lands with a thud, declaring mission accomplished, and that the briefing happened mid-air. Lee Nara clutches her chest, excited to see a room filled with such attractive characters. Yuna recognizes the famous sleeper, and the girl politely returns the greeting, treating it like a social mixer. Layla lets out a heavy sigh, grimly noting that the situation with Tae-in has deteriorated beyond measure. Uterina insists there is still a chance, but admits that executing him might be the only mercy left. Lee Nara's gaze falls upon the bound protagonist. Iljin asks if she knows the pervert. The girl smiles softly, saying Tae-in might not remember, but they are childhood friends. He was the one who introduced her to the world of Manhwa. Lee Nara whispers that it must truly be a dream if Tae-in is the star. Uterina questions how she resisted the virus. The girl jokes that perhaps she is the Constellation of Justice, a rumor she picked up on the flight over. But deep down, she believes she is safe simply because she is the owner of this dream world. Yuna looks confused, but Lee Nara is certain. The way her crush appeared in this scenario proves this is a fantasy crafted for just the two of them. Suddenly, the protagonist snaps. He loses his mind completely, succumbing to the berserk state. Just as hope fades, the girl steps forward. Yuna screams, asking what she is doing. Lee Nara embraces the raging Tae-in, whispering for her love to stop, assuring him that she is here and he needs to remember. Uterina shouts for her to retreat, warning that he is a lethal danger. But the girl ignores the warning. Tears stream from her eyes as she begs him to forget the pain, promising that everything will be all right. Her tears fall like rain, landing on the protagonist's face. A single droplet hits his forehead, and miraculously, it begins to purify the rage virus instantly. Nara holds him tight against the chaos. Cheonma is stunned by the sight, while Iljin narrows his eyes, feeling like he has seen this exact cliché play out somewhere before. Uterina stared in disbelief, unable to accept the reality unfolding before her eyes. Nara poured her heart into healing him, her affection becoming a tangible force that regenerated his spirit. Tae-in blinked open his eyes, utterly disoriented, as the girl whispered with a soft smile, "This is the only way to bring our hero back." A warm embrace, and the tearful gaze of a childhood friend. It was a classic scene. Yet, Tae-in just stared blankly and asked, "Who are you?" Nara flustered, her face turning red as she hurriedly introduced herself. Finally, recognition dawned on Tae-in. She was that girl who always slept during class. Cha Yun-ya noticed Nara trembling with quiet rage at being forgotten, but Uterina stepped in, explaining that this human girl had somehow managed to cure him. Tae-in quickly assessed the situation. She wasn't a constellation or a divine being. Yet, this ordinary girl had appeared out of nowhere and fixed what the gods could not. He had heard the stories before, the legendary trope of a childhood friend's tearful hug awakening the hero. It seemed she was perfectly fulfilling the role of the heroine in love. The rest of the party sighed in relief, realizing their leader was back. Tae-in turned to thank her, but paused. Her outfit was definitely out of place here. He tossed her his shirt to cover up. Nara convinced herself this had to be a lucid dream, but her heart raced so fast she couldn't even meet his gaze. Making a quick decision, the protagonist invited her into the party. She was officially assigned the role of support. They needed a brain like hers. In fact, Her intellect might be the exact key they needed to clear the hellish Huja Karuna tutorial. Udarina narrowed her eyes. A mere human neutralizing a constellation's curse? She might be even more dangerous than the pervert they were dealing with. Tae-in gritted his teeth. As expected, the only path forward was to crush that bastard. Nara murmured, amazed by how incredibly detailed this dream was. But Yunya grabbed her shoulders, telling her sternly, "This isn't a dream. The fate of Earth rests on our shoulders." The reality finally sank in, and Nara nodded grimly. Tae-in declared they were heading back to Huja Karuna's domain, but Udorina intervened immediately. "If we go now, we'll just repeat the same catastrophic failure." Tae-in pondered their options. In a straight-up brawl, that monster was unbeatable. They needed a different angle. Nara raised her hand timidly. "Can someone explain the situation? I need to know what we're up against." Tae-in looked at her with renewed interest. Of everyone he knew, she was the smartest. He would brief her on everything, and together, they would craft the perfect strategy. Meanwhile, across the ruined cityscape, a brilliant light descended upon Huja Karuna's lair. The villain burst into mocking laughter. "How annoying. You actually came back for more?" His eyes narrowed. "And I see you've added another insect to your collection." Tae-in smirked, thanking him sarcastically. "You've been a pain, but we're ready now." Huja Karuna's expression twisted into fury. "You're really starting to piss me off." He lunged forward. The devastating fist closed in on Tae-in's face, but the protagonist simply smiled. Boom! An explosion rocked the entire domain. The girls instantly coordinated, erecting a barrier to shield themselves from the violent aftershocks. Huja Karuna froze in shock. His fist hadn't even touched Tae-in because Udorina had invoked the absolute defense, the protection of justice. Tae-in's grin widened. "Let's ratchet up the tension, shall we?" His arrogance was driving the Constellation mad. "Udorina," the Constellation roared. "Why are you siding with these insects against a fellow god?" Her voice cut through the chaos, cold and sharp. "You are mistaken. I came here to protect Times him, asterisk." Huja Karuna scoffed, preparing to strike again. "What kind of nonsense is that?" Tae-in stepped forward, aura flaring. "With the protection of justice by my side, I can match the power of a constellation." Huja Karuna laughed, a dark, rumbling sound. So annoying. His necklace began to pulsate with ominous light, his power skyrocketing. Tae-in recognized the signs immediately. This was the trigger for the second phase. Huja Karuna sneered. "You think you can rival me? You should rely on your own strength, not borrowed divinity." Before Tae-in could react, a punch landed, shattering the barrier like glass. One moment of calm, then total destruction. Tae-in was launched backward like a rag doll, and Udorina took the full brunt of the impact. Nara screamed out to her friends in terror, while Huja Karuna simply sighed, bored by their weakness. Udorina gasped, blood trickling from her lips. "How? How did you break my authority so easily?" The villain looked down on her coldly. "I didn't get stronger. You insects just don't get it." His voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. "Would you believe me if I said I've been holding back my rage this entire time? I've been angry my whole life. Every time I lashed out, I lost everything. I broke everything I touched. And ironically, what infuriated me most was my own anger. I was the one who wanted to control it." He touched the glowing necklace. "That's why I sealed my wrath into this artifact, the Amulet of Rage. But now..." The air began to vibrate. "It is time to let it all go." He released the seal, letting his energy expand to the horizon. Yunya pointed, trembling. "What in the world is that?" Huja Karuna's overflowing energy materialized into a horde of shadow beasts. He crouched, commanding the swarm. "Devour them." Tae-in stood his ground against the nightmare. He believed in his team. He believed in himself. Ascension. Stage 1. Release. No more holding back. He activated the skill. Replica. Instantly, hundreds of copies of Tae-in flooded the battlefield. Huja Karuna threw his head back and laughed. "Struggle all you want, little insect. Today is the day you go extinct." Udorina dashed forward, slicing a monster cleanly in half. But flesh knitted back together in seconds, and where there was one head, two more sprouted. "This is pointless," she shouted. "They just keep regenerating." Nara's face went pale. "Our plan. It was doomed from the very start." Udorina unleashed a blinding light spell to buy them a second of time. "We need to retreat and grab Tae-in," Nara cried. But the Constellation of Justice shook her head, a grim realization in her eyes. "I wish it were that simple." Guilt gnawed at her conscience. Someone had to be the shield. She blamed herself entirely for keeping the critical intel hidden until it was almost too late. She had to make amends, right here and now. With a roar of determination, she lunged into the fray, cleaving through the magma serpent with every ounce of her strength. Unleashing her Seashine spell, she tried to turn the tide. But the beast was too fast. She overextended and found herself trapped in the serpent's crushing jaws. Suddenly, a blast of dark energy erupted. Chanma unleashed her celestial demon seal, shattering the snake's grip. She scoffed, telling her to quit the Constellation of Justice Act. Yudorina stared back, wide-eyed and shaken. Chanma explained grimly that their opponent wasn't just a snake, it was a manifestation of wrathful obsidian, born from the Constellation's raw power. Layla stepped up, weapons drawn, her eyes burning with resolve. I can fight too, she declared, refusing to stay on the sidelines. They weren't helpless. Since they all possessed shared energy from Tae-in and the divine blessing of Yudorina, they had a fighting chance against this monster. High above, the Constellation observed them with intrigue. These tiny life forms possessed an unyielding will to survive. Perhaps Huja Karuna had been wrong. Humanity was the noblest creation of them all. But peace was not an option. Huja Karuna smashed a fist into Tae-in's face, the impact shaking the air. You can't hide forever, he roared. An inferno of destruction followed. In an instant, every single one of the protagonist's clones was vaporized by the hellish explosion. Tae-in realized he had kept his main body at a distance just in time, barely surviving with his exclusion skill. Huja Karuna throttled a clone, demanding to know why this insect refused to counterattack. The protagonist looked him dead in the eye, calm amidst the chaos. Because I have no intention of fighting you, he replied. A smirk tugged at his lips. Huja Karuna demanded an explanation. Tae-in shrugged. Constellations were immortal beings anyway, so a battle would just be an endless waste of time. So, Tae-in declared with absolute confidence, I've decided to make Huja Karuna my companion instead. Flashback to the strategy meeting at school. Yudorina nodded thoughtfully, admitting the logic held up. Layla agreed, eyes sparkling. It was a bold, brilliant plan. Cheonma was skeptical, asking if a human could really lead a cosmic entity. Iljion adjusted his glasses, pointing out the obvious. Yudorina herself was already a cosmic being. Yun turned to the main character, asking for his take. Tae-in's answer was instant and firm. Absolutely not. The girls blinked, confused by his rejection. The protagonist sighed, explaining the headache of it all. Making Huja Karuna an ally felt unnatural. They barely understood the team members they already had. Adding another volatile character would only invite chaos. Besides, he broke the fourth wall. The readers were here for a bloodbath, not diplomacy. The girls stared at him like he was crazy. Chanma slammed her hand down, voicing her opposition. That guy was a monster, hell-bent on erasing humanity. Recruiting him was insanity. She swore she wouldn't rest until she ended his life with her own two hands. But Yudorina shook her head sadly. That was an impossible dream. The harsh truth hung in the air. Humans could never take the life of a constellation. It was a fundamental law of the universe. Layla asked if Yudorina could fight him, but she refused. Combat between constellations was strictly forbidden. However, if they allied with Huja Karuna, they could wield his apocalyptic strength. Tae-in tried to protest again, still hating the idea. Nar cut him off, challenging him to provide a better solution if he was so smart. The protagonist fell silent, mind racing for alternatives. Finally, he slumped his shoulders in defeat. Fine, he admitted. I have no choice. He turned to Yudorina, his expression serious. Tell me everything. I need to know every detail about Huja Karuna. Back in the present battle, the protagonist shouted his offer of alliance. He knew Huja Karuna's star was special from birth. The response? A brutal punch to the face. Tae-in activated Mirage Advance to dampen the blow. I know the truth, he yelled. You became envious of everything surrounding the other stars. Memories flooded in. People had whispered that he was the brightest star in the sky, destined to ascend to constellation status faster than anyone in history. But his innate nature was volatile. Huja Karuna roared, asking who this mortal thought he was to judge his divine existence. The other stars had turned their backs on him. They called him vulgar, a bad influence, a troublemaker who brought nothing but discord to the cosmos. Rage, built within Huja Karuna. Everyone had avoided him, treating him like a plague, until the day one person finally called his name. Tae had appeared. He valued Huja Karuna's consistency, appointing him as the Constellation of Wrath. He expected him to maintain cosmic order through destruction. Huja Karuna paused. So this was what acknowledgement felt like. It was the first time anyone had given him a purpose. Then he screamed. Only now did he realize how terrible that feeling truly was. It didn't bring peace. It just pissed him off even more. Since then, he had silently carried out his duty. Huja Karuna cursed Tae-in, punching him again. You bastard. Don't act like you know me, you insect. The protagonist didn't dodge. Let it out, he shouted. Unleash all that anger on me. I can take it. He stood his ground. I'm the ally who won't break and won't leave. Huja Karuna froze, processing the words. Tae-in thought desperately. Please, let this work. I'm reaching my limit here. Tae-in panicked internally. Huja Karuna lowered his fist slightly. You're the first person to ever say that to me. His eyes narrowed. You pathetic insect. He smirked darkly. Let's see if you can really stick around. Danger alarms rang in Tae-in's head. He was going to die. But then he saw the text change. Huja Karuna unleashed his ultimate attack, Hell Explosion. Meanwhile, Layla drove her dagger into the multi-headed snake, landing a critical hit. She panted heavily, the group watching the beast finally crumble. Huja Karuna stood amidst the smoke. It's been a long time since I released this much rage, he admitted. I feel, surprisingly, refreshed. The protagonist dusted himself off, battered but standing. No need to thank me, he groaned. Huja Karuna looked at him with genuine shock. He had used his strongest move, yet the human lived. Tae-in smirked internally. In this story, that was called plot armor. He claims he was holding it together just fine, insisting that deep down, the Constellation Huja Karuna knew he was a righteous man. The Constellation scoffs, remarking that he speaks as if he possessed omniscient knowledge. Then, Tae-in reveals the chilling truth. The rage virus was designed to bring about humanity's extinction. Yet, when he witnessed the apocalypse with his own eyes, he saw a flaw. The infected were merely angry. They did not destroy one another. In every other story, zombies tear each other apart, but not here. Tragedy only struck when the uninfected attacked first. That violence was the catalyst, the spark that allowed the rage virus to ravage their bodies in return. And in that moment, the truth clicked into place. The source of the Constellation's apocalyptic fury wasn't hatred, it was a desperate, screaming need to find someone who understood his pain. He had spent an eternity trying not to incinerate those around him, suppressing a volcano of frustration in solitary confinement for unimaginable eons. But now, all of humanity shared his wavelength. They finally understood him. The burden he carried must have been agonizing. He used to curse his own existence, despising his innate nature and wondering why he was born this way. The emotion overwhelmed him as he struggled to simulate a normal life. He knows rewriting his nature won't be easy, but he also realizes the futility of bearing this darkness alone. The era of solitary suffering is over. He has walked through hell. But now he stands with comrades who recognize his true worth. He is no longer invisible. With conviction, Tae-in asks Huja Karuna to join him as a companion. The Constellation falls silent, the air heavy with tension, before he whispers that hearing those words makes him furious. Tae-in doesn't flinch. He accepts the blow without defense, his body sent hurtling through the air by Huja Karuna's strike. The Constellation roars that he doesn't need pity, screaming for Tae-in to die while raining down blow after brutal blow upon the protagonist. Tae-in is slammed into the earth with a sickening thud. Yudori screams his name in panic. Huja Karuna lunges for the killing strike, but his fist smashes into the empty ground instead. The Constellation trembles, ordering him to stop. Layla cries out to her friend, the tension nearly snapping her sanity. "You bastard," Huja Karuna mutters, his voice cracking. "I can't even stay angry at you." As Linara heals his wounds, Tae-in smirks, calling it a classic cliché scene. Uranai tells him to open his eyes. Huja Karuna looks around, and for the first time, the murderous fire in his eyes is replaced by a sparkle of wonder. "It's beautiful," he whispers. The world is frozen over in pristine silence. He laughs softly as Tae-in asks the ultimate question. What does the Constellation truly desire? He asks again if he will become his companion, extending a hand of friendship. Huja Karuna looks up, his expression softened, and vows to accept the offer. The protagonist nods, satisfied. He admits he isn't a fan of tragedies, but he was banking on this redemption arc. But as he reaches out, his hand phases right through the Constellation's body. A look of horror dawns on Huja Karuna's face. "I don't think I can go with you after all," Yudori screams, confusion reigning. Huja Karuna explains the cruel law of the cosmos. Constellations exist because of a concept. When they lose their reason for existing, they fade away. His rage was his anchor. Now that his target is gone and his anger soothed, his very existence is dissolving into the void. Tae-in demands an explanation, but Huja Karuna simply hands him a glowing necklace. "Take this," he commands. It is the Amulet of Rage, his personal artifact. It contains the condensed fury of countless millennia. It will be the weapon Tae-in needs for the wars to come. The protagonist refuses to accept it, shouting that Huja Karuna needs to come with them, that this wasn't the deal. The Constellation laughs one last time, apologizing for calling him a worm. He finds it ironic he finally forged an unbreakable bond, only to disappear the moment he found it. He admits it's incredibly irritating. Tae-in screams Huja Karuna's name, but suddenly, a blade flashes. Uranai's sword strikes at the fading spirit's neck. The protagonist instinctively dodges the shockwave. Uranai glares, cold and mechanical. I should not have let him live this long. A constellation vanishing is a collapse event, an anomaly never before seen in the cosmic order. The scales of balance have calculated that he is now a threat to the universe itself. The party members scream in horror, begging Rennie to wait a single second. She raises her blade for the final execution, apologizing with zero emotion. Suddenly, a hand catches the blade. Yudori gasps, recognizing the newcomer. The Constellation of Amusement, Omoshiroi. The protagonist analyzes him instantly. A powerhouse with sly, fox-like eyes and overwhelming pressure. The girl demands to know what Omoshiroi is doing here. The trickster god simply smirks, telling her to calm down and listen to the show. He chuckles in disbelief that Tae-in actually tried to ally with Huja Karuna, then congratulates him on looting the legendary artifact of the Wrath Constellation. But that is trivial. He is here on official business, a divine decree from the King of Constellations himself. He waves his hand theatrically, announcing the start of a divine ceremony for the human, Tae-in. Uranai bristles with irritation, while Yuna asks what this nonsense is about. Omoshiroi summarizes the offer. It is an invitation to ascend. They want Tae-in to become a constellation. In his words, it's just a gathering of friends. The protagonist scoffs. Don't make me laugh. He spits back that constellations treat humans like ingredients for their twisted recipes. They were just trying to exterminate them moments ago. Omoshiroi shrugs, saying, not all stars agree with that method. He admits the assignment of the current administrators was strange, but asks if Tae-in is really sure about rejecting the ceremony. The benefits are godlike. Tae-in refuses without a second thought, his eyes cold as steel. Omoshiroi grins. That's exactly what I thought you'd say. He has been watching this human for a long time. As a transcendent being who values entertainment above all else, Tae-in is the ultimate show. He asks how he, the Constellation of Amusement, could possibly ignore such a spectacle. But he warns it wasn't just him watching. The entire firmament is buzzing. The other constellations have taken a keen interest in the human who brought the god of rage to his knees. Tae-in demands the entity vanish immediately, but Omoshiroi merely smirks. He offers a mock apology, claiming he couldn't possibly leave. After all, watching Tae-in drown in such chaos is simply too entertaining to miss. He claims to have smoothed things over with the King of Constellations. He intends to report that the star, Beyoncé, rejected the divine ceremony. But his tone drops a warning. Tae-in must prepare for the wrath to come. The declaration is absolute. From this moment forward, the entire cosmos has turned against him. Every constellation, including the legendary 12 houses of the zodiac, is now hunting for his head. The 12 zodiacs? Tae-in asks, his voice grim. Omoshiroi nods, the gravity of the situation settling heavily between them. He explains that amongst the infinite tapestry of stars, the king handpicked 12 elites. They are the apex, the symbols of absolute power within the galaxy. And the terrifying reality? Each one holds enough energy to extinguish all life in the universe with a single thought. This means 12 invincible gods are gunning for him. A death sentence. However, he can exclude one for now. The Constellation of Justice has already defected to his side. Tae-in turns to Udorini, his eyes narrowing. You? You're one of the 12 zodiacs? She bows her head, confirming the truth. Before she took the title of Justice, she was known by her true name, Udorini, the balance of Libra. She stands as the 7th house of the zodiac. Tae-in lets out a breath of disbelief. To think he has been casually traveling with a cosmic deity of such magnitude. Tae-in points to the mark, asking if all zodiacs bear it. Omoshiroi confirms, noting that while the patterns differ, the power is unmistakable. But Omoshiroi's expression darkens. He witnessed her struggle against Huja Karuna. At this rate, Libra is too weak. She will soon be stripped of her title as a zodiac. The title means nothing, Udorini retorts, her eyes flashing with resolve. Her only duty is to preserve the cosmic order. She would gladly abdicate her throne to protect it. Omoshiroi scoffs, calling her painfully humorless. Are we done here? Tae-in demands. The zodiac tilts his head, a playful glint in his eyes. What do you desire, little human? Tae-in smirks. If this god loves entertainment so much, he should start performing. Entertain me, Tae-in challenges, just as I have entertained you. Suddenly, Chonma steps forward, dark energy crackling around her like a storm. I've waited for a worthy opponent, she hisses, killing intent flooding the air. She lunges, ready to claim a god's life. So aggressive, Omoshiroi sighs, feigning fear. Chonma unleashes her ultimate technique, a cataclysmic strike meant to obliterate everything. Tae-in braces for impact, but the zodiac simply yawns. With a casual flick of his finger, Omoshiroi shatters the entire dimension like glass. The planet begins to crumble into dust. In the nick of time, Udorini envelopes the group in light, warping them away just as the world is obliterated behind them. Within the warp stream, Rainy checks on Chionma. Are you all right? Without my barrier, that blast would have erased your existence. The heavenly demon grins wildly, bloodlust still evident. Dying against a monster like that? Sounds thrilling. Omoshiroi materializes beside them. Exactly. Now you get it. Where to next? The Zodiac asks, fascinated by these chaotic humans. He teases Tae-in for his glare, reminding him he just saved their lives. Tae-in stays silent, realizing the truth. Without that intervention, Huja Karuna's attack would have slaughtered him. "I protect my entertainment," Omoshiroi declares. He promises to keep the other constellations from swarming Tae-in all at once. Finally, he reveals his true station, Omoshiroi of Capricorn, the 10th house. He leans in, whispering a secret directly into Tae-in's ear. "Don't disappoint me," he grins, saying he has high hopes for this show. He places a small, intricate flute in Tae-in's hand. The deal is simple. If Tae-in ever wants to play with a god again, he need only blow this whistle. See you later. The zodiac vanishes. Tae-in stares at the artifact in his palm. In the blink of an eye, the cosmic void is replaced by familiar scenery. They are back on Earth, standing right outside their school. Yun-ah stumbles, clutching her chest. "No matter how many times we do that, I'll never get used to the nausea." Tae-in rubs his temples. The pacing is relentless. He hasn't even had a moment to digest the battle with Huja Karuna, and now this? Rainey bows deeply, apologizing for her earlier attack. Tae-in waves it off, but she insists, "You endured too much because of me." Her arrogance nearly cost them everything. She must return to the sanctuary to seek guidance and atone for her weakness. Meanwhile, Cheon-ma shrinks back to her base form, already muttering about training to surpass the zodiacs. Linara looks around, dazed. "So, what do we do now?" Before Tae-in can answer, Iljeon points to the streets. "Look." The group turns, observing the city. People are walking, laughing, going to work. The rage virus has vanished. Iljeon beams. "You did it, Tae-in. You actually saved the world." Tae-in watches the peace for a moment. "The party is disbanded," he announces. Iljeon blinks in shock. Tae-in explains simply, "The war is over. It's time for everyone to return to their normal lives." "I couldn't do it alone this time," Tae-in admits. A rare moment of vulnerability. Linara tilts his head, confused. "What are you talking about?" Tae-in starts to explain his solitary path, but suddenly, ping, a hologram materializes in thin air. Iljeon jumps back. "Whoa, why did that pop up?" Tae-in freezes. Usually, the system is invisible to others. "Wait," he asks, eyes widening. "You can see this too?" A massive wall of text scrolls down. "I don't read essays," Tae-in growls. But the headline catches his eye. "Penalty imposed for elimination of Huja Karuna." Sweat forms on his brow. What kind of penalty? Will the system strip his skills? Lock him in an interdimensional prison? The verdict appears. User is under special surveillance. Blocking constellations is now disabled. He is being forced into their trials. The rest of the team huddles around the glowing screen, reading the bad news. "You guys really see the status window?" Tae-in asks, dread pooling in his stomach. Yuna points to the bottom line, her voice trembling. It mentions, "companions." "It's talking about us, isn't it?" The system processes his request, confirming he intends to shoulder the burden alone. He demands his friends be excluded from the fallout. However, the system scoffs at his martyrdom. It calls him ridiculous, warning him that his servant-like behavior has triggered a catastrophe he can't comprehend. It scolds him for ignoring messages longer than 4 lines. Tae-in snaps back, asking if this sassy attitude is really how a system should operate. Udrini steps in, declaring that a high-ranking constellation like herself is obligated to intervene in the trials of others. Her system chimes in, ominously noting, this will be a lesson they regret. But first, a reward is granted to Tae-in for conquering the trial of wrath. The sudden reward catches him off guard. He stands there, isolated, feeling the burning gaze of his party members who are clearly fed up with his antics. Time shifts. Tae-in drops to his knees in a dramatic dojeza, begging for forgiveness and pleading with them not to disband the party. Cheon-ma glares down at him, her patience worn thin. She wonders aloud if ending his life would solve their headaches, but Layla steps in to diffuse the murderous tension. Udrini voices a strategic concern. Separating now is suicide since they have no idea when or where the next deadly trial will descend. Yuna offers a tearful apology to the group. Her composure cracks. She is desperate to see her parents, her mind consumed by worry for their safety. Layla pulls her into a comforting embrace. Linara suggests a change of pace, proposing they head to Yuna's house immediately. Guilt strikes Tae-in like a physical blow. He realizes he was so focused on his own family that he completely neglected the hearts of his companions. He agrees instantly, declaring they all deserve a moment of peace. Upon arrival, Yuna rushes forward, collapsing into her mother's arms, thanking the gods she is alive. Tae-in awkwardly excuses himself to give them space. The mother cries out for her husband, announcing that their precious daughter has returned from the abyss. Yuna's father bursts onto the scene. He mentions the apocalypse raging outside and deduces that the young man standing there must be her protector. Tae-in scratches his cheek, muttering a humble confirmation. He worries he sounds arrogant, but the father simply grips his hand in overwhelming gratitude. Tae-in recounts their survival. The father listens, wide-eyed. It sounds like a legend, but the evidence is right there. He calls Tae-in amazing, a true hero who saved a piece of humanity. He beams, genuinely happy his daughter has such powerful allies. While he praises them, Lenara tugs at her outfit, asking if it's finally safe to change. Yuna nods vigorously. It is high time she burned the ridiculous outfit that the pervert forced her to wear. Layla marvels at the durability of modern clothing. Meanwhile, Udrini is baffled by the concept of fashion, offended that anyone would dislike the mana-woven gear he created. Yuna sighs, admitting they at least fit. She turns to Cheon-ma, who looks ready to murder someone. The heavenly demon declares she would rather face the fires of hell than wear casual clothes. Yuna's mother interrupts the fashion debate. The oven dings. She asks her daughter to help serve the feast. The dishes arrive, steaming and fragrant. Tae-in's eyes light up at the sight of real food. Il-jin watches, wondering if she could ever learn such a domestic skill. Layla soaks in the atmosphere. It is incredibly peaceful. The mother directs her husband to move the table to the living room to accommodate everyone. She admits she wasn't prepared for a party of warriors, but smiles warmly. She insists they eat until they burst. The group is stunned by this unconditional kindness. Layla clasps her hands in thanks. Cheon-ma stares at the silverware, holding up a fork like it's a legendary weapon she doesn't know how to wield. Tae-in digs in, praising the flavor. Yuna's father watches him eat with a satisfied grin, already mentally noting that this boy would make an excellent son-in-law. The mother reveals the dish is lasagna, Yuna's absolute favorite. Yuna blushes furiously, snapping that she didn't cook it specifically for Tae-in or anything. Cheon-ma comments that the skill level is professional. Lenara whispers that Yuna is a classic tsundere. Yuna admits she once dreamed of being a chef, so she poured her soul into this meal. The group shares the food, laughing and trading stories. For a moment, the blood and death of the trials feel a lifetime away. Il-jin wonders if food always tastes this good when shared with friends. Time flows gently, and soon, plates are empty and bellies are full. Tae-in bows, complimenting the chef. Yuna's mother beams, but suddenly, a cold voice cuts through the warmth, criticizing the seasoning as too salty. Tae-in's instincts scream. He demands to know how long the intruder has been there. Udrini's eyes widen. He recognizes that aura. The stranger reveals herself. She is the Constellation of cuisine. She smirks, noting she appreciates those who recognize true divinity. Tae-in demands a reason for her sudden manifestation. Oishi-kunari laughs, claiming the answer should be obvious to anyone with taste buds. She has descended to introduce them to a new kind of hell, the spicy flavor of her personal trials. Tae-in assumes a combat stance, shoving Yuna's father behind him for protection. But Oishi-kunari raises a hand, clarifying she is not a brute force constellation. She is a connoisseur. She has always wondered what mortals eat. Her trial is simple, yet impossible. Create a dish that satisfies her divine palate, using only ingredients they hunt and cook themselves. Tae-in groans. Another trial? He asks why they should bother playing chef when they have a world to save. Oishi-kunari's expression darkens. She reveals that without the intervention of the constellation, Omoy of Fun, humanity would have already been erased. They are lucky to even have this chance. The stakes are absolute. If he fails her culinary test, or if the other constellations lose patience, the destruction of humanity is inevitable. She grants him a deadline, 1 week. She tells him to signal her through the system when the masterpiece is ready, then bids them a chilling farewell. She dissolves into light, leaving the room silent. Yuna's mother is trembling, asking what just happened. Yuna is baffled, cooking for stars. Tae-in stares at his hands. This isn't a battle he can win with fists or aura. His mind races until the realization hits him like a truck. He turns to Yuna's parents with grim determination. He tells them they have to leave immediately. It is time to save the world. With dinner, the father solemnly declares that he is entrusting the entire future of humanity and his precious daughter to Tae-in. But the girl instantly snaps, yelling at her father for placing such a heavy burden on him. Elsewhere, Yuna asks what their next move is. Tae-in recalls the moment he first summoned Layla, and Yuna nods, remembering the event clearly. Tae-in announces he will summon a companion who fits their criteria from his own dimension. But first, they must travel to a suitable world. Confused, the girl demands to know exactly what that is supposed to mean. He explains with a smirk that he will teleport everyone to a dimension teeming with the finest ingredients across all of space and time. In a flash of light, they arrive in a sun-drenched paradise, and he opens his eyes. Cheon-ma looks around, demanding to know where they have been dragged this time, while Il-jun stares in awe, pointing a trembling finger at the massive entity before them. Tae-in laughs, asking what else it could be but a dragon, marking the epic start of their journey across worlds. The beast lets out a heaven-shaking roar. Leonara panics in terror, while Layla and Yuna groan, complaining that they have to deal with yet another giant monster. The dragon opens its maw, unleashing a torrent of scorching fire toward the group. Tae-in sighs, mentioning he has some housekeeping to attend to. The dragon's breath engulfs him, but he blocks the inferno with casual ease. Tae-in complains that this is boringly easy and raises his hand to strike back. With a simple flick of his finger, he obliterates the dragon instantly, only to realize his power control is still too flawed. Unfazed, he activates his ability to reverse time. The resurrected dragon looks around in total confusion. While Tae-in muses that he would really appreciate taming a dragon this time, the monster, panic-stricken, begs him to wait a single second before ending its life. It instantly shapeshifts into a human form, opening its eyes with a look of profound sadness. He apologizes profusely, begging for mercy, while Tae-in points out that the dragon's pitiful expression does not match his earlier arrogance. The dragon introduces himself as Darsos, the 14th guardian of the ancient forest. Despite his dangerous entrance, he now looks completely submissive. Tae-in remarks that this was incredibly anticlimactic, and Darsos hesitantly asks if he is a hero. The protagonist confirms he is merely a student who fell from another world, destined for heroism. Darsos asks if he is the child of prophecy, and Tae-in notes that this is indeed the classic setup. The dragon explains that 50,000 years have passed since the prophecy was forged in the Dragon Clan and handed down through the generations. He reveals that 5 days from now, the 2 moons of this world will align. 7 strangers were destined to arrive at the Pillar of Light, yet only 6 stand here now. The protagonist nods, signaling he grasps the situation. So, simply put, they must follow the script and save the world from the Demon King. Darsos is surprised, remarking that he seems to already know the prophecy's contents. Tae-in tells him to forget all that nonsense and asks the real question: what is the most delicious food in this world? The dragon stands there, utterly dumbfounded. The day passes, and the protagonist summarizes that this continent, Aojuni, possesses 4 legendary delicacies. First, a legendary flower from the World Tree that blooms only once every 1,000 years. Consuming it grants 10 years of overflowing vitality. Second, the spines of a lava sea urchin, a beast born from the fires of ancient wars. Third are dragon eggs, considered the absolute peak of fantasy ingredients. And finally, the hidden leg meat of the elusive paradise rabbit. Those were the 4 ingredients. Tae-in turns to Darsos and asks if he can hand over his eggs, since he is a dragon. Darsos is offended, calling him incredibly rude. The protagonist shrugs and asks why they cannot simply summon all the ingredients right here, right now. He begins the incantation to create the ingredients, but Darsos frantically stops him. The dragon insists he cannot summon those things here, though Tae-in argues they are merely food. The dragon explains that the lava sea urchin lives deep in the underworld cavern beneath the Demon King's castle, surviving under immense crushing pressure. If he were to suddenly summon such a creature to a place like this, the drastic pressure difference would cause a catastrophic explosion instantly. The protagonist then asks about summoning the other items, but Darsos replies that they are called rare for a reason. The World Tree has not bloomed in over 30 years. The Paradise Rabbit was hunted to extinction for its unique flavor, and furthermore, he will never give up his own eggs. Tae-in tells him to calm down, while the dragon questions if they are truly a hero's party with such skewed priorities. The protagonist replies with a serious gaze that they are saving the world in their own unique way, and while he does not expect the dragon to understand, he would sincerely appreciate the help. Darsos looks at him, thinking to himself that this crazy guy is actually serious. He closes his eyes in resignation, saying that if Tae-in is truly the boy from the prophecy, it is his duty to assist. First, they must target the World Tree and the Lava Sea Urchin. The elves who serve the World Tree could be of immense assistance to their cause. For the Lava Sea Urchin, he will need to tunnel through the underworld caverns and scour the magma, likely facing the Demon King's army in the process. But with Tae-in's overwhelming strength, it should be a walk in the park. He suggests they secure these 2 ingredients first. The protagonist agrees to the plan and decides to split the team into 2 groups. Leonara asks which group he intends to join. Tae-in declares he will go with both, splitting his very existence into 2 clones. Darsos is shocked, while Tae-in mutters that in these stories, one side usually messes up and causes chaos. The World Tree team is formed. Yun-Ah, Layla, Lyra, Leonara, and Darsos. While Il-Jen, the Heavenly Demon, and Udarini marched on the Demon King's castle, the second group ventured deep into the ancient forest. Their destination, the domain of the World Tree. Tae-in couldn't help but voice his frustration. Why was he stuck on a boring fetch quest instead of storming the Demon King's fortress with the main assault team? Decassos claimed the Demon King was simply too terrifying to face. But Tae-in scoffed. The dragon's bored expression betrayed his cowardly excuse instantly. Their banter was cut short. Before them rose the sanctuary of the elves who guarded the World Tree, the legendary city of Silenheil. Layla gasped at the breathtaking scenery. Tae-in, however, merely noted that the massive tree looked like a prop straight out of a Norse mythology blockbuster. The air suddenly hissed with deadly intent. Magic arrows rained down, but Tae-in didn't flinch. With a casual wave of his hand, he shattered the attack and smirked at their aggressive hospitality. An elf materialized from the shadows, eyes dripping with disdain. He sneered at the audacity of filthy humans daring to trespass in the sacred realm. His voice was cold as steel. He promised that none of them would leave these woods with their lives. Picasso stepped forward to mediate, while Tae-in mocked the ambush as cute. But the moment the dragon spoke, the elf's arrogance faltered. He recognized that ancient voice. The dragon dropped a bombshell. He announced that Tae-in was no ordinary trespasser. He was the child of prophecy everyone had been waiting for. The elves erupted in mockery. A human? The savior? Impossible. Tae-in's brow twitched. He was getting tired of being looked down upon by these pointy-eared snobs. The leader leaped down from the branches, his face twisted in disgust. He insisted a pathetic human bloodline could never produce a savior and accused the great dragon of senility. Tae-in asked for the loudmouth's name. Picasso sighed, introducing him as Beldor, the elven prince and captain of the guard. Unfortunately, Beldor held absolute authority here. No matter how insufferable he was, they needed to win him over to succeed. Beldor continued his tirade about vulgar, dirty humans until his eyes landed on Layla. Her radiance struck him like a physical blow. The elf was instantly love-struck. Meanwhile, deep in the Demon King's castle, the air grew heavy with a suffocating, heart-racing pressure. From the shadows of his throne, the Demon King watched their progress. A twisted smile played on his lips. Things were getting interesting. Back in Sylvestia, the mood had shifted entirely. A grand feast was laid out before the travelers, all thanks to Beldor's sudden change of heart. Layla thanked them gracefully, while Tae-in wondered aloud if elves had separate stomachs for dessert. Layla's attention, however, was fixed on a delicious, glowing fruit. Beldor beamed, explaining its rarity just to impress her. Dicassos rolled his eyes. The hostile prince had turned into a puppy the moment a pretty girl smiled. It was a historic turnaround. Beldor leaned in, offering the entire kingdom's resources to aid the woman of prophecy. Tae-in seized the opportunity and Beldor's hand. He thanked the prince and demanded the world tree's flower. The elf's face darkened instantly. He snarled at Tae-in to remove his filthy paws immediately. Tae-in's patience snapped, forcing Layla to intervene. Beldor then dropped the crushing truth. The world tree had no flowers left to give. The next bloom wouldn't happen for another 30 years. Layla's face fell as she asked if there was truly no other way. Tae-in cracked his knuckles, suggesting he could persuade the tree to bloom faster. Blades hissed from their sheaths as every elf turned on him. Dicassos roared for order, but the elves were furious. They accused the humans of plotting to pillage their sacred god. The dragon hissed a warning to Tae-in. The world tree wasn't just a plant, it was their deity, and Tae-in was treading on dangerous ground. Tae-in offered a half-hearted apology, but stood firm. He couldn't sit idly by while the world faced destruction. Beldor scoffed, questioning if such a rude brat could really be the hero. Layla stepped forward, pleading with teary eyes for a solution. The hostile elves instantly melted before her radiant sorrow. Beldor cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. He admitted there was one person who might help the great sage elder. They rushed to the elder, only to hear the impossible. The old man cackled, admitting he had already eaten every single flower. The last bloom was a millennium ago. He looked at them with pity, suggesting they just sit tight and wait. Wait 30 years? Tae-in was incredulous. Layla reminded them in a panic that they only had 1 week before the apocalypse. The elder ignored their urgency, drifting into a memory of his youth. He described brewing a tea from the rare petals. 700 years later, the taste still lingered on his tongue. It was divine, pure vitality distilled into a single cup. He mused about how delicious a fresh one would be, smirking as he asked if the humans were jealous of his gourmet experience. Yuna whispered, asking if this senile fool was really the sage. The elder then turned sharp, warning Tae-in not to even look at the tree only the chosen could approach. He brandished his walking stick, boasting that it was crafted from a fallen branch of the world tree itself. He told Tae-in to admire it quickly and then leave. If he was still breathing in 30 years, maybe he could come back for a flower. Beldor nodded in approval. The elder was a master of the polite refusal, a true inspiration to elven arrogance. Dicassos grumbled that being a jerk wasn't a skill. The elder ignored him, taunting Tae-in one last time about the staff's magnificence. Tae-in didn't answer. He simply snatched the staff from the old man's grip. Beldor screamed in outrage, and Yuna gasped. He couldn't just mug the elder. Tae-in ignored them all. He channeled his lightning growth ability directly into the dead wood. Golden light exploded, and the dry staff began to bud. As Dicassos watched in shock, the staff transformed into a living sapling. Tae-in smirked, tossing it back. Since they loved their tree so much, he thought he'd grow them a spare. Tamuriel stared in disbelief, his voice trembling as he asked how such a miracle was even possible. The protagonist simply smirked. While legend stated only one flower bloomed every millennium, the world tree was now crowned with a magnificent bouquet of blossoms. The elves erupted into cheers. Tears flowed as they glorified the hero of prophecy who had single-handedly saved their entire race from extinction. Tae-in shrugged it off. Skipping 6,000 years? Maybe hard. But a measly 1,000? Child's play. Tamuriel collapsed to his knees, realizing he was witnessing a divine miracle. With the World Tree Seed finally secured, the protagonist turned his gaze outward. It was time to see how the Demon King suppression team was faring. Meanwhile, the battlefield was a chaotic storm. Kim Il-jin obliterated a high-ranking demon with a single, devastating charge, leaving the beast gasping in disbelief. This wasn't just any victory. Bharat Leninal, the fourth celestial king, had been crushed like an insect by a mere human. Kim Il-jin scoffed, wiping dust from his knuckles. Is this the Demon King's gatekeeper? Pathetic. Tae-in chimed in, praising his charisma, which only inflated the delinquent's ego. The girls watched in silence, unimpressed, until Tae-in broke the tension, celebrating that the path to the castle was finally open. Suddenly, a voice cut through the air. A man noted that Bharat Leninal, a monster capable of handling 10 dragons, had fallen in seconds. It was Yakum, another of the 4 celestial kings. He tried to sound impressed, but Tae-in instantly saw through the facade. This guy was the weakest of them all. Tae-in mocked him mercilessly, revealing he knew exactly how disgraceful the demon's reputation was. Yakum tried to laugh it off, but his confidence was crumbling. Look at him, Tae-in jeered. He's baring his teeth, but his legs are shaking. He's terrified. Cheonma stepped forward, dark energy swirling around her. This looks fun, she grinned. The protagonist sighed, warning her that fun was a dangerous word in their line of work. In fact, saying that line was basically a guaranteed death wish spell in any story. Yakum roared, claiming they were fools to ignore him. He unleashed his power, but Cheonma was faster, a flash of energy, and Yakum's demonic arm was severed instantly. Cheonma looked down coldly at the whimpering king. You shouldn't have annoyed me. Even your master won't save you now. Stepping into the Demon King's castle, Tae-in squinted into the gloom. A bit dark for a villain's lair, isn't it? He wondered where the next boss was hiding. A deafening boom shook the hallway. A woman materialized from the shadows, chains rattling around her. Good to meet you, my dear brother, she sneered, blocking their path. You reached the castle, but your journey ends here. She was the scythe of chains, ready to strike, but Cheonma simply bonked her on the head. The woman hit the floor, defeated instantly. Cheonma yawned, looking at her companions. Is this it? I'm so bored I could actually die. It was a true existential crisis. Being a Constellation-level entity meant finding these trivial life forms almost painfully dull. The protagonist nodded. It seems only cosmic entities can challenge us now. But then, a chilling laugh echoed through the chamber. Is that so? The protagonist's eyes widened. The girl they just defeated stood up. Behind her, the other fallen celestial kings rose from the dead, eyes glowing with rot. Valletta, the first celestial king, revealed herself. This is my true power, she declared. The zombie army. Kneel before my infinite legion. The protagonist realized the trick immediately. It wasn't just revival, she was looping their existence. No matter how many times they died, they would return. Fine, he muttered. Simultaneous conjuration. A massive portal ripped open above Valletta, and another opened directly beneath her feet. Dimensional exile. The same fate befell the other zombie kings. One of the men screamed, "How is this fair?" as gravity inverted and sucked them into the void. Tae-in snapped, the portal shut with a satisfying thud. Maybe they'll find peace in the dimension of nothingness. He dusted off his hands. Can we finally go to the lava ocean in the underground cave? The group nodded. That was the mission, after all. They marched through the endless corridors of the castle. But doubt crept in. The protagonist paused, wondering if they were even going the right way. Shouldn't the demon lord have shown up by now? He asked. Maybe we should just find him and speedrun this. Suddenly, Udarinai froze. Wait. A voice, heavy as a mountain, crashed down upon them. Kneel. The sheer pressure forced the protagonist's group to the ground. Tae-in struggled against the gravity. What is this? Udarinai looked up in horror. How are times you times here? The entity on the throne smiled. Is it not obvious? This is my castle, the being declared. Sitting upon the throne was no mere demon. It was the constellation of war, Zeta Ikoros. Time rewound to moments before they entered the castle. The dragon, Dasos, had tried to warn them about the true nature of the celestial kings. Tae-in had covered his ears. Spoilers aren't fun. Kim Il-jin had just shaken his head at the hero's bizarre attitude. But the dragon insisted on one warning. The Demon King. He is different. For thousands of years, heroes have challenged him, but none have ever returned. Yet, strangely, he possesses power to rule the world, but never attacks the human realm. Tae-in had waved it off. Villains are always weird like that. We'll deal with it when we get there. Back in the present, the pressure was crushing. Tae-in gritted his teeth. Udorinai. How do you know this guy? The goddess's voice trembled. He is one of the 12, the strongest constellation. He single-handedly ended the ancient constellation wars with brute force. He was so powerful that his existence alone forced the creation of the law prohibiting combat between constellations. The protagonist stared at the figure on the throne. Why would a god like that pretend to be a demon king in the mortal realm? Zeta Ikoros grinned, his eyes burning with madness. Simple. I love war. But the council banned me from fighting, so I made my own playground. He forged a world of eternal war, a planet where countless factions were locked in a cycle of endless slaughter. Gazing down at the chaos, the creator smiled. Watching his creations tear each other apart brought him absolute satisfaction. But there was a purpose to the cruelty. From those who survived the hellish trials, he harvested negentropy, an energy more potent here than in any other dimension. He crowned himself the demon king of this realm. Tae-in's eyes turned cold. He asked if the king threatened lives just for power, vowing to end his tyranny right then and there. Zeta rose from his throne, his presence suffocating. With a smirk, he challenged the human to try and defy his absolute rule. Suddenly, the system chimed. The reward for Huya Karuna's trial, Ascension Level 2, had been unlocked. Tae-in instantly unleashed Divine Verdict, while Erdonai screamed that he was going too far. Dozens of angels swarmed toward Zeta, weapons drawn. But the Demon King didn't flinch. His weapon shifted form in the blink of an eye, becoming an impenetrable shield. Steel rang against steel. He blocked every strike effortlessly. Zeta scoffed, asking if this was truly the best the light attribute had to offer. It was certainly impressive power enough to have annihilated the rest of the world, but against him, it was nothing. Zeta's weapon twisted again, morphing into a massive halberd. He had been waiting for this moment, a clash with the hero of prophecy. Rumors spoke of a human capable of slaughtering a constellation. Zeta's blood boiled with excitement. That very legend was standing right before him. He prepared to strike, but Erdonai intervened. She shouted for him to wait. They were currently under the sacred trial of the constellation of gastronomy. He could not interfere. Zeta paused, lowering his weapon. He had no intention of violating the trial rules. However, he reminded them, they times were the ones who broke into his time's castle. Yet, Erdonai's words sparked a memory. A warning from the past. A directive from time's terrifying existence. Long ago, the supreme constellation, Omoshiroi, had summoned the stars. He declared a unified interest in the newly awakened. The stars craved the potential within the human, desiring to test him and harvest the finest negentropy for themselves. But there was a problem. If every constellation descended at once, humanity would be vaporized instantly. They had to play fair. A queue was established, starting with those who spoke up first. Omoshiroi's gaze was heavy, daring anyone to object to his order. Terrified of Omoshiroi's wrath, the stars agreed. Zeta sighed at the memory. Because of that system, he was stuck as number 389 in line. Erdonai stepped forward, clarifying their intent. They weren't here to fight. They only sought rare ingredients found in this dimension. Zeta blinked, then grinned. As the master of the dimension, creation was his plaything. He told them to simply speak their desires. The group exchanged stunned glances. Tae-in didn't hesitate. Lava sea thorns, he demanded. Zeta asked for the quantity. As many as possible, Tae-in replied. Instantly, dozens of the rare thorns materialized in the air. The Demon King looked at them expectantly, asking if there was anything else their hearts desired. Tae-in pushed his luck. Dragon eggs and paradise rabbits. In a flash, a mountain of legendary ingredients piled up before the group. Tae-in stared, wondering if this was some kind of cheat code. Zeta waved them off, commanding them to hurry up, finish their little test, and come back to face him properly. The protagonist paused, considering the offer. Then, a confident smile crossed his lips. He agreed he would return one day to challenge the king to a true duel. As they left, Kim Il-jin murmured that the Demon King was surprisingly kind. Zeta warned him to cherish his life, while Tae-in signaled the group to move out. Back in the safety of the Elven lands, Tae-in took a bite of the ingredient. Fury welled up inside him, not out of hate, but because he was angry. He had only just discovered something so delicious. Tears streamed down the faces of his companions as they ate. The flavor was overwhelming. A culinary miracle. Layla sobbed, noting it was this good raw. She tried to imagine the taste if it were cooked properly. Just as the second group landed nearby, the newcomers gasped. Dicassos' eyes went wide. These should be extinct. Tae-in's clone demanded to know where on earth they found such treasures. The clone greeted the original Tae-in, but Dicassos was too distracted. He marveled at the impossible sight, so many legendary ingredients gathered in one spot. He looked at Tae-in with awe, asking if he had truly defeated the Demon Lord. Thuriel nodded sagely. It was exactly what one would expect from the hero of prophecy. Cha Yunma wept tears of joy while eating the world tree flower, and Layla cuddled a paradise rabbit. Peace had returned for a moment. The elves began to cheer, hoisting Tae-in into the air. They hailed him as the conqueror of the Demon King. Tae-in felt awkward. The elves clearly had the wrong idea. He hadn't killed Zeta. 2. Yet. That was a task for the future. But a more pressing issue arose. Yun asked the fatal question. How do we cook this? Thuriel froze as everyone looked at her. She stammered that she was a historian, not a chef. The girls turned to Yun, but she shook her head. She had never even seen these ingredients before. Dikaso stepped in with a solution. We must visit the best chef in the kingdom of Okoni. He wasn't certain, but if anyone could handle god-tier ingredients, it was the royal chef. Erdenai agreed it was logical. Tae-in nodded. Their next destination was set. Dikasos felt the weight of their stares. Moments later, the group soared into the sky on the dragon's back, while Cha Yunma and Erdenai traveled separately. To the palace, Tae-in commanded. Far below, in a quiet village, a father and son looked up, trembling as a massive shadow blotted out the sun. They whispered of legends, of mythical beasts that shouldn't exist, until a voice cut through the air. It's a dragon, someone shouted. Dikasos descended with a thunderous boom, landing right in front of the terrified family. Tae-in corrected them. It was a super times dragon. Tae-in scanned his surroundings, asking if this was the capital, Achiunia. The architecture was stunning. It truly felt like an otherworldly fantasy. Dikasos huffed, declaring that this was where they parted ways. He refused to go further. He had no desire to bow before a human king. Tae-in offers a warning of his own. Though he recalls no spoilers for the path ahead, he assures the dragon he will understand the truth when they meet. With a nod of gratitude for the assistance, Tae-in suggests that perhaps their paths will cross again. But the great dragon shakes his head. To aid the hero of prophecy was an honor, however fleeting. For that very reason, Dasos insists they should never meet again. Turning to the locals, the protagonist asks for permission to borrow a cart. Meanwhile, the young Kim Il-jin steps up, boldly telling the group to take whatever they desire. The party strolls into the city limits. Kim Il-jin doesn't shy away from the attention, loudly announcing that the hero's party is passing through. Layla grumbles under her breath, hating the thousand eyes fixed on them, but suddenly, their path is blocked. A rough voice rings out, ordering them to hand over every treasure they possess. Tae-in sighs. It was such a classic trope. Layla finishes his sentence, recognizing the cliché immediately. Of course, it was a group of bandits, foolish enough to pick a fight with the hero's party. The thugs demand to know what they're whispering about, screaming for the loot. That is, until the axe-wielder pauses, his eyes locking onto Layla. He leers, commenting on her stunning beauty. Another bandit sets his sights on Cheon-ma, admitting she's his type. But her gaze is cold enough to freeze hell. She looks at him like a corpse walking. Tae-in quickly intervenes, reminding everyone, no taking lives today. The bandit looks confused, barely processing the warning, but he doesn't have time to think. The heavenly demon's attack is already upon him. She handles the entire gang with terrifying ease, barely lifting a finger. Dusting herself off, she mutters that perhaps she should just give up on this life and reincarnate already. The onlookers gasp. The entire gang was decimated in a single move. Whispers turn to shouts. He must really be the hero of prophecy. Cheers of glory erupt as the group continues their march. Tae-in decides to give them a show. He suggests releasing some of the world tree flowers to bless the streets. The crowd goes wild, glorifying the protagonist's name. Meanwhile, deep within the royal castle, a servant rushes to his majesty. He warns that a self-proclaimed hero of prophecy is demanding an audience. King Tom tears into a chicken drumstick, grease dripping down his chin. He scoffs at the news. Ridiculous. He orders the servant to chase the imposters away. The servant hesitates before dropping the bomb. The visitors brought gifts, specifically, the 4 great delicacies of the world. Tom's attitude flips instantly. If that's the case, let them in at once. Moments later, Tae-in steps into the throne room, offering a polite apology for the intrusion. Tom lets out a boisterous laugh, eyeing them greedily. He demands to know what business brings them to his court. The protagonist cuts to the chase. He needs to borrow the royal chef for a short time. Internally, he notes that this ruler has the textbook appearance of a corrupt, evil king. Tom salivates, his eyes gleaming. He agrees, but on one condition. Tae-in must hand over all 4 of the great delicacies he brought with him. The protagonist tilts his head, questioning the logistics. It's a bit difficult to do that. Tom's face reddens. He accuses him of refusing a royal order and screams for his guards. The servant tries to intervene with reason, but the tyrant silences him with a sharp command. Heavily armored guards block the exit, shielding the king. Tom screams his final decree: take the man's life and enslave the women. As the soldiers ready their weapons, Tae-in sighs. It's no surprise the streets outside are plagued by bandits and starving children with a leader like this. The country is a rotting mess, and he's seen enough. He calls upon the heavenly demon. He gives her a single instruction: don't kill them. Cheonma smiles, a predator released from its cage. The soldiers charge toward the protagonist, unaware of their folly. Tae-in shakes his head. They chose the wrong master to serve. Cheonma blurs forward, decimating the entire squad before they can even blink. Tom's jaw drops. How did she handle his elite knights so easily? The protagonist apologizes insincerely for the noise, but since fate has taken this turn, a change in management is in order. Tae-in steps forward and places the crown on Kim Il-jin's head. Tom falls to his knees, begging for his miserable life. Kim Il-jin looks down at him, declaring that he is the king now. Tae-in ignores the crying tyrant and orders him to fetch the head chef. The new boy king barks the order to the servants. Tae-in watches the chaos, remarking that this kingdom's situation was truly hopeless until now. A servant rushes back, apologizing for the delay. He introduces Sanchez Beck, the royal chef. Tae-in raises an eyebrow at the man's haggard appearance. Tom sneers, claiming the man looks like that because he's the son of slaves, lazy by nature, even when given an opportunity. Yet, even the tyrant admits the chef's skills are invaluable. The servant can't stay silent any longer. He exposes the truth. This pig of a king worked Sanchez to the bone, forcing him to cook endlessly without sleep or rest. Tom shouts back, calling Sanchez an ungrateful wretch who knows nothing of honor. Tae-in scowls. This guy is truly disgusting. It's revolting. Kim Il-jin raises his hand, passing his first sentence: dimensional exile. Tom stammers, asking for a moment, but a portal rips open. The pig king is sucked into the void, screaming for salvation. Layla sighs, noting that things escalated quickly. The protagonist just smiles. It might have been chaotic, but it was certainly entertaining. Now, only the most important piece remains: the future of humanity, currently dead on his feet. The crowd calls for Chef Sanchez, and the exhausted man finally snaps awake. He panics, apologizing profusely, promising the food will be ready in a minute. Tae-in steps in gently, asking Chef Sanchez to calm down. Sanchez screams that he must cook. If His Majesty gets hungry, it will be a disaster. The protagonist places a hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, that tyrant is finished. Tae-in points to the throne. This little guy is the new king of Uchenia. Sanchez blinks, confused. What food are you talking about? Kim Il-jin speaks with royal authority. He commands Sanchez Beck to prepare a dish, something delicious, using the ingredients right in front of him. Sanchez is awestruck as he gazes at the legendary ingredients. Tae-in grins. That's not all. The cart outside is loaded with the other 4 great delicacies of the world. He looks the chef in the eye. Can you create the best dish in the universe? Upon hearing the challenge, the chef gulps, his culinary soul igniting. He strides into the kitchen with a singular focus. Yun ties her apron tight, giving him a firm nod of solidarity. The master chef begins, his knife moving so fast the onions seem to vanish into thin air. Without wasting a second, he starts the broth using the legendary thorns from the Sea of Lava. Yun bursts into tears, overwhelmed by the sheer majesty of the paradise rabbit's leg. Working as one, they tackle the massive dragon egg. With a mighty heave, they crack it open, frying it in a pan large enough to hold a beast. The pressure in the kitchen is crushing, enough to break ordinary souls. Yet, amidst the heat and steam, they exchange a confident smile. They know they are creating magic. The doors to the royal hall swing open. They announce the dish is complete. Sanchez steps forward, declaring with absolute certainty that this is the greatest meal the world has ever seen. He unveils the masterpiece, a colossal omelet that glistens under the hall's lights. Sanchez breaks down the impossible recipe. Salted flowers from the world tree, braised thighs of the paradise rabbit, and the rich filling of dragon eggs, all garnished with the lava thorns. Tae-in takes a bite and his eyes go wide. This taste. It's insanity. Linara trembles, whispering that eating something this perfect is actually terrifying. Yun admits she stole a taste during the prep work and describes it as absolutely divine. The time for talk is over. They prepare to feast. The protagonist places the fork in his mouth and freezes. Instantly, he enters a trance. Reality dissolves, plunging him deep into his own imagination, throwing his soul across the cosmos. Tears stream down his face as the vision clears. He sees a vast, brilliant blue sky stretching over an endless field of flowers. A wave of pure comfort washes over him. He looks at his hands, then up to the heavens, opening his arms to embrace the warmth. He weeps with joy as a giant statue of a goddess descends. She gently takes his hands and leans down, bestowing a kiss of spiritual awakening upon him. Amidst this moment of absolute transcendence, Tae-in starts crying in the real world too. Through his sobs, he manages to choke out, "It's so delicious." Lee Nara points out that the artist's reaction is the ultimate proof of quality. The protagonist bows, thanking the chef. They are finally ready to challenge the Constellation Oishikuna properly. Sanchez bows deeply, expressing his eternal gratitude to the heroes who saved his country. He prays they pass the trials that lie ahead. The protagonist arranges a resting place for the exhausted chef. Then, he turns to his team with steel in his eyes. Is everyone ready to depart? He commands the system. We are prepared. Initiate the final phase of Oshikuna's test. The system acknowledges the command. Space begins to warp, transporting them to the gourmet constellation's dimension. Tae-in clenches his fist, putting his faith in their cooking skills, and Yun agrees. The teleportation completes, but something is wrong. The protagonist looks around in confusion. The darkness is absolute. He can't see a thing. Yun's voice trembles with fear, but the protagonist snaps his fingers, conjuring a brilliant light. Oishikuna appears, smirking. I'm impressed you prepared so quickly, she purrs. She explains that the original test was simply to eat the food he made. However, she decided that would be far too easy for someone of his caliber. Thanks to a little interference from the constellation Omo-Shiroi, things have changed. She spreads her arms wide. Welcome to the gourmet cooking competition. Lee Nara demands an explanation. The protagonist grits his teeth, of course. Omo-Shiroi is behind this chaos. Oishikuna asks coldly, do you remember the original condition? It was to make a meal that satisfies me, she reminds them. But now? You must gather the ingredients and cook it yourselves, right here. The core condition remains unchanged. She snaps her fingers, and figures begin to materialize in the kitchen stations around them. She announces that she has summoned the most legendary chefs from every dimension. They are all here to present their signature dishes in a battle for supremacy. The stakes are set. If the protagonist's meal isn't the absolute most delicious among these titans, she will not be satisfied. Lee Nara screams that this is unfair, changing the rules at the last second. The protagonist raises a hand. It's fine. I expected her to pull something like this. Besides, they already have the greatest meal in the universe ready to go. But Oishikuna laughs darkly. The chef I'm betting on is someone special. She points a finger across the arena. Standing there, eyes vacant, is Sanchez. And balancing on his head are the four delights. The group gasps in horror. Those are our time's ingredients. Tae-in shouts at the system, demanding to know where their supplies went. Yun panics, asking what they can possibly do now. Across the room, Sanchez opens his eyes. The ally has become the enemy, and he is ready to cook. A fishman chef steps up first. Behold, the underwater world cake, he boasts. A sacred dish eaten only on my clan's most holy days. Best served with clay. Oishikuna takes a bite. Thank you for the meal, she says politely. It is truly delicious. Her expression hardens. But the baking technique is flawed. She renders her verdict. The punishment is extinction. In an instant, the entire Quillet clan is wiped from existence. Next, she commands. Kim Il-jin watches in terror. What was that? Not just eliminated, exterminated? Sanchez looks down, whispering a broken apology to the fallen chef. The constellation states the rule coldly. Contestants cannot share ingredients. Tae-in rages. What kind of twisted nonsense is this? Lee Nara yells that she knows those ingredients belong to them. Sanchez replies with a heavy heart, standing there helplessly, unable to repay the kindness of his saviors. He is truly sorry things turned out this way. Tae-in stops his team. Don't confuse the enemy. It was Oishikuna who forced him into this. He shouts at the constellation, his voice booming. If you steal all our ingredients, how do you expect us to cook anything? Oishikuna tilts her head. Oh? You weren't prepared? She smirks. In that case, I will grant you a little extra time to gather ingredients again. I will judge the meals when they are complete, she declares. Do your best. Entertain me. Yun asks if they can just summon the ingredients. Oishikuna shakes her head. I will accept only ingredients gathered personally by your own hands. Summoning or copying with magic is strictly forbidden. That is cheating. Yun groans in frustration. You have got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. Nar turns to him, panic flickering in her eyes. She asks the million-dollar question. Could his time reversal ability get them out of this mess? Tae-in shakes his head. Constellations exist outside the laws of physics. Space-time distortions wash over them like a gentle breeze. But just then, a twisted idea sparks in his mind. A dark grin spreads across his face. He thanks the narrator for the inspiration. He turns to the group, his voice steady. Everything is going to be fine. He has a plan. The gourmet constellation, Oishikunar, taps her foot, demanding her next meal. Tae-in chuckles. Crushing enemies with brute force is satisfying, but outsmarting a god? That is true entertainment. He whispers a question to Euderina. Meanwhile, Chef Sanchez steps forward, trembling as he presents his dish to the impatient deity. It looks like heated xenon ore, dangerous and rare. But Oishikunar doesn't care about effort. She has been erasing chefs from existence simply because their food bored her. She sighs, wondering if humanity has any flavor to offer at all. Her glowing eyes lock onto Sanchez. He seems to have just finished his masterpiece. She peers at the dish. It resembles dragon eggs. Sanchez puffs out his chest. He declares this the single most delicious omelet in the history of the world. The Constellation raises an eyebrow. That is a dangerous amount of confidence for a mortal facing execution. Sanchez bows, admitting he only succeeded thanks to the hero's help. Oshikunar ignores the sentimentality. She stabs the fork into the meal and takes a bite. Silence falls. Then, a radiant smile breaks across her face. She calls it perfection. She admits this truly is the world's greatest flavor. It seems humanity has a champion. The other chefs gasp in shock, amazed that Sanchez is still standing and breathing. Oishikunar praises the technique. He somehow drew out the raw, natural essence of every ingredient. She demands to know his secret source, but Sanchez drops a bombshell. He forfeits. These weren't his ingredients, and his chef's honor won't let him claim a victory he didn't earn. The air turns cold. Oishikunar's smile vanishes. If he refuses victory, he is saying he prefers death. Tae-in steps in, cutting the tension. Who cares about the ingredients? The flavor was absolute. They were going to win regardless. Sanchez tries to protest, but the gourmet Constellation silences him with a wave of her hand. This drama amuses her. As the goddess of gastronomy, erasing such a talented chef would be a waste of resources. The elimination round ends. Out of 100 teams, only 8 have survived her judgment. These are the final representatives of humanity. Suddenly, her gaze shifts to Tae-in's team. She frowns, confusion clouding her divine features. They haven't even touched a pan. Tae-in stands tall, declaring they have already fulfilled every condition of the test. The Constellation scoffs. Is this a bluff? If he thinks words will save him from erasure, he is sorely mistaken. How disappointing. Tae-in looks her dead in the eye. He asks if she is truly the Constellation of gourmet food. Oishi-kunar bristles at the insult. Tae-in presses on. He needs to know just how far she is willing to go for the ultimate culinary experience. Rage flares in her aura. Cuisine is her entire existence. For doubting her devotion, simple extinction is no longer enough. She issues a terrifying decree. She will hunt down every human on the planet, cook them, and feast until their species is a memory. Euderina pales, wondering what crazy game Tae-in is playing. But Tae-in shouts back she cannot judge them yet. She hasn't tasted their dish. But there is a catch. To taste this specific meal, she must descend from her throne. She must become human. Oishikunar pauses, confused. Tae-in reveals his trap. He confirmed with Euderina that constellations can voluntarily shed their divinity. His voice drips with conviction. Immortals consume energy, not food. They will never understand the true, desperate essence of eating. Only a mortal body can taste the flavor of life itself. The girls behind him gasp, realizing the genius of his psychological warfare. Oishikunar throws her head back and laughs. Fine. She accepts his challenge. She will prove she understands eating better than any mortal. She will take human form. But the test conditions remain absolute, and she warns him, if he tries to attack her while she is vulnerable, she will instantly revert and annihilate them. The Constellation of Justice is watching as a witness. The trial is set. She begins to glow, blinding light enveloping the arena. Tae-in smirks. The trap is sprung. Now, it is his turn. She stands there, fully human, mocking him. But Tae-in's expression is cold. He tells her it's over. He activates his time regression ability. As a constellation, she was immune. But as a human, she is trapped in the flow of time. The magic explodes outward. The world dissolves and reforms. They stand in a lush green field. Oishi-kunar looks around, panic rising. Tae-in reveals the truth: he can travel to any point in time. Above them, the Dragon King Dasos descends. Linara gasps. They are in the past. Tae-in looks at his hands. Here, in this time, he is the hero of prophecy, and the dragon is about to transform. Oishi-kunar trembles, fearing for her mortal life. Euderina steps forward, assuring her that she won't die today. Tae-in steps in. He won't let her die, but he needs to verify one last thing. Is she truly ready to do anything for good food? Oishi-kunar grits her teeth. She is the goddess of gastronomy. She fears nothing in the pursuit of flavor. She challenges him to show her his masterpiece. Tae-in nods solemnly. He tells her to trust him completely, because soon, she is going to regret that confidence. Covered in dust and humiliation, Oishikunare questions her very existence as she rolls through the dirt. A whistle cuts through the air. Dasos commands the drill with ruthless efficiency. Tae-in looks down cold and sharp. He warns her to watch that attitude and put some actual soul into her singing. Yunya scoffs, noting the guy hasn't even served in the military yet. Oishikunare snaps, demanding to know what this torture has to do with cooking, and why she is even here. Tae-in raises an eyebrow. Is she really talking back to a constellation right now? The audacity. Regret crashes over the woman instantly. She shuts her mouth and endures the grueling physical hell for the rest of the day. Collapsing on the ground, she gasps for air. Tae-in looms over her, asking if she is finally done. Oshikunare mutters a dark vow. If the food isn't god tier, he is a dead man. But the protagonist isn't finished. He triggers the time rewind spell, rewinding her fatigue. He declares they must keep going. The woman stares in horror as the spell activates. Later, she finds herself clinging to the world tree with a mere rope. She screams, asking what kind of madness this is. The protagonist offers no mercy. He orders her to climb higher and harvest every flower she can reach. Oishi Kunare cries out, why must it be her? One slip means death. But Yodorina chimes in, assuring her she won't die. Today, they will catch her. Probably. The protagonist just shouts for her to hold on for dear life. Yunya watches with concern, asking if this is too extreme. But Chonma smiles, noting that for once, she is actually satisfied. The protagonist notes this grind will take all day. Hours bleed away until finally, Oishiku Nare manages to snatch a single, glowing flower. A voice echoes in her mind, the elder's voice. It whispers that the flavor is delicious beyond all mortal description. Temptation strikes. She raises it to her lips, but the protagonist snatches it away instantly. He reminds her these are ingredients, not snacks. Oishiku Nare threatens to end him right there, but Yodorina intervenes, breaking the test rules as strictly forbidden. Their battlefield is the kitchen now. Meanwhile, in the Demon King's castle, Zeta bursts into maniacal laughter. He mocks Oishiku Nare's human form, calling it a ridiculous spectacle. She bristles, asking why the constellation of war is even here. The protagonist steps in, ordering calm. They will handle this diplomatically. Oishiku Nare demands answers. The protagonist explains the loot she stole belongs to Zeta. They need to finish this test and deal with the battle-crazy fool quickly. The girl swallows her pride and agrees. She turns to Zeta and politely asks for the ingredients. Zeta grins, conjuring a horde of rabbits, eggs, and thorns. Tae-in nods now that the materials are gathered. The real cooking begins. Oshiku Nare feels a spark of hope. Finally, the end is in sight. They must conclude this otherworldly episode. In a flash, everyone teleports away. Zeta remains behind, muttering that being the Demon King is boring work. Suddenly, a scream tears through the royal castle. Tae-in effortlessly drops the guards. He sighs, noting he didn't expect to see this guy twice in one day. Tom begs for mercy, but the protagonist activates dimensional exile and banishes him to the void. He turns to Yunya, entrusting the rest to her. She accepts the burden without hesitation. Sanchez was enjoying a peaceful nap in his quarters. The girl shakes him awake, warning him she is commandeering his kitchen. Resistance is futile. In the royal hall, Oishiku Nare is losing her mind. She is starving to death and demands to know what is taking so long. The girl enters, declaring the dish complete. The Constellation tosses her cards aside. She prepares to judge this human, but she will do it with the dignity of a proper outfit. After all that suffering, the flavor better be legendary. If it disappoints, they should prepare for divine consequences. Yunya looks shocked by the pressure. Oishiku Nare leans forward, demanding to see the meal. The girl announces it is a set course. She lifts the lid, revealing a lasagna that glows with perfection. After testing everything, this was the ultimate choice. Reason vanishes. Oishiku Nare hears nothing else. For the first time in her existence, a primal, violent hunger takes over her senses. She realizes the truth. The best meal is one that conquers hunger. This isn't just food. It is a cosmic disturbance waiting to happen. Tears stream down the woman's face as she takes the first bite. Watching from the shadows, Sanchez feels his heart stop. He has fallen completely in love with her skill. Tae-in asks for the verdict. Oishiku Nare trembles, whispering that she regrets every insult she spoke earlier. This sensation is new. For the first time, the constellation of gastronomy is truly moved. It uses the same ingredients as the omelet, yet every cell in her body sings in harmony. This is a true meal. She cannot deny it. It is absolute perfection. Yunya asks if they passed. Oishiku Nare confirms it. The test is cleared. The group erupts in celebration. Yunya turns to the protagonist, asking if he predicted this outcome. Tae-in shakes his head. It was a gamble from the start. He simply thought developing the other's skills would be more interesting, so he rode the flow. The girl blinks, asking what he means. The protagonist looks at her seriously. It was only possible because of her. The meal she cooked at his house was the proof he needed. Her culinary mastery gave him the confidence to bet everything on her. The girl blushes crimson, stuttering that he should be grateful then. The system chimes in. He has cleared the Constellation of Gastronomy's test. Ascension Stage 3 is now unlocked. Kim Il-jin questions the logic. Even when he used this power before, he still lost fights. The system tells him to quit whining. The protagonist implores it to release the next level immediately. Nothing matters more than absolute strength. Fighting a constellation on equal footing is currently impossible. But he has no intention of playing their little test games forever. Yuna announced she had cleaned her plate completely. Oishi Kunare nodded, declaring that leaving leftovers was a sin against food. The young girl asked if her appetite was satisfied, but the constellation merely smirked. She felt as if she could devour an entire feast. Sanchez interrupted, bowing politely. He asked if dessert was required, admitting he had never seen anyone appreciate his cuisine with such fervor. As a chef, his soul was ignited. He was fully committed to creating a masterpiece for her. Oishi Kunare didn't hesitate to accept the offer. The protagonist watched them, confused. Yodere stepped in, asking the constellation if she planned to report back to the King of Stars, now that her work was done. Oishi Kunare glanced at Sanchez, a rare blush coloring her cheeks. Her answer was a firm no. She had made her choice. She would remain in this dimension, living as a human. Yodere stared, asking what madness she was spouting. The trial should have ended. She should return to her throne as the constellation of gastronomy. But Oishi Kunare replied that she needed to rediscover the true meaning of cooking. The constellation of justice warned that this would shatter the universal balance. However, the goddess of food stood firm. Her mind was made up. She walked straight to Yuna. With a serious expression, she told the girl to take it. It was her divine artifact, the immaculate cutlery. Yuna hesitated, asking if it was truly all right to accept such a legendary treasure. Oishi Kunare told her to consider it payment for the delicious meal. But then, she paused, asking what exactly one does with such power. The protagonist admitted he had never seen items like these before, but their aura was undeniable. They were interesting. Yodere fell into deep thought. First, the destruction of the constellation of Wrath, and now gastronomy abandoning her title. She wondered just how much chaos this single human would bring to the cosmos. Yuna suggested splitting the set, though she had no clue how to use them. Cheon-ma claimed the fork with a menacing grin, while Layla took the knife. That left the golden spoon for Yuna. Tae-in insisted she keep it, saying she needed every advantage to get stronger. Suddenly, Kim Il-jeon addressed Oishi Kunare as Madame. Removing his crown, the king offered a proposal. If she planned to stay, she should rule by his side as the country's queen. He recalled that earlier, amidst her hunger, she had wanted to devour him, but she held back, and he respected that restraint. Oishi Kunare scoffed coldly. She was the constellation of gastronomy. She couldn't just put trash times in her mouth. Still, she thanked him for the sentiment. Kim Il-jeon stood there, confused. The realization hit him slowly. His pride had just been shattered. The culinary goddess mused that becoming a leader in a dimension ruled by the constellation of war would be an educational experience. The protagonist noted she clearly didn't know the constellation of war very well. Yuna asked what came next. Tae-in grimly replied that the next trial was already beginning. First a zombie apocalypse, then an interdimensional cooking show. If this chaotic pattern continued, Lenara sighed, commenting that with every constellation test, the entire genre of their reality seemed to shift. The protagonist nodded in agreement. He wondered how the author of this world could keep switching genres in a single story. Yodere interrupted, declaring there would be no more tests. She planned to persuade the Council of Constellations herself. It was time for them to return to their daily lives. Yuna asked hopefully if that meant no more bizarre trials. Suddenly, Omoshiroi materialized, replying that it wouldn't be that simple. The group spun around as he greeted them. He warned that the next constellation was already waiting and would summon them immediately. Tae-in glared at Omoshiroi's sudden appearance. Yodere shouted for the jester to stop his games. Omoshiroi revealed the truth. The next opponent was one of the legendary zodiacs. They had to move. Now, interdimensional teleportation magic enveloped them. The protagonists vanished instantly, leaving Oishi Kunare and Sanchez staring at empty space. In a new dimension, the sky opened up. Rain poured relentlessly. Tae-in looked around, wondering what hellhole this was. Yuna groaned at the non-stop downpour. The protagonist cursed. Omoshiroi had dumped them in this wasteland and disappeared without a trace. He called out, checking if everyone was safe. The girls were already complaining, soaked to the bone in seconds. Tae-in sensed something wrong. This place felt vile. He asked whose lair this was. Cheon-ma narrowed her eyes. She felt killing intent from miles away. It was unlike any constellation they had faced before. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the depths, declaring that their struggle was not on her level. To overcome her test? The entity emerged from the dark waters, her voice dripping with malice. She warned them. It was impossible. Yodere's face went pale. She recognized the aura of the constellation of despair. The protagonist shouted back that nothing was impossible. The girl pleaded for her to listen. Their group couldn't handle another test right now, but the constellation of despair merely repeated her mantra, impossible. No matter what they said, her mind was stone. The council kept overlapping tests, demanding too much. They wanted the protagonist to grow through extreme suffering. But waiting for that growth? Impossible. She sensed the latent entropy within him. It was a quality of despair she had never tasted before, and she hungered to consume it all. The ground beneath them turned to liquid. She began dragging the protagonist down into the swamp. Layla screamed, asking when the trap had triggered. Yuna cried out as the mud reached her thighs. The constellation of despair loomed over them, decreeing they would drown in sorrow and lose their lives in her domain. That was her ultimatum. But the protagonist sneers. Does she really think he'll dance to her tune? An explosion rips through the air. Tae-in roars in defiance. What is wrong with these constellations? They created humanity, yet now they seek to snuff out the very lives they sparked? His patience snaps. He despises her arrogance. With a surge of raw energy, he triggers Ascension Stage 3. He mocks her, admitting he once considered her an ally solely because her character design wasn't half bad. But those days are gone. Magic crackles around his fists. Shockingly, the constellation of despair catches his strike with a single palm. She hisses that resistance is futile. She will not tolerate such insolence within her divine domain. The protagonist's mind races. This terrifying speed, this overwhelming pressure, it can only mean one thing. She wields the combat power of one of the 12 zodiac houses. This is a completely different dimension from his first duel with Yodu Rai. These entities aren't playing around, they intend to end him instantly, offering zero mercy. But he isn't out of tricks just yet. A dark aura flares as he activates the artifact of the Constellation of Wrath. He warns her not to underestimate his growth since their last encounter. He unleashes a devastating berserker punch, smashing right into the constellation's guard. The impact is catastrophic. She is blasted backward as a stellar explosion lights up the void. The protagonist grins. In Stage 3, he has finally mastered the volatile power of the Wrath Amulet. The constellation of despair reels in disbelief, screaming that this is impossible. How can a mere mortal wield such god-slaying might? Tae-in realizes the truth. He can actually win. He can defeat a constellation. He charges in for the kill. But suddenly, Yodu Rai intervenes, shouting at the pervert to stop immediately. The protagonist snaps at her to move aside. He warns her that if she keeps acting like an annoying trope, her popularity rankings will crash into the ground. She fires back, insisting she did it to protect him and all of humanity. She explains the grim reality. No matter how hard she or Omoziroi try, the Council of Constellations has already voted for human extinction. Hearing this, the protagonist slowly lowers his fist. The constellation of despair rises from the debris. She declares that resistance is meaningless. Humanity cannot escape its inevitable end. Her decision is final. Ominous waves rise behind her, casting a shadow over everything. The protagonist stares, asking what fresh hell this is. The constellation answers with a cold smile. They must all drown in the swamp of despair. As the worst despair imaginable washes over him, Tae-in grits his teeth, worried for his companions. He desperately tries to trigger his rank A defensive barrier, but Muramu Rimuru blocks him, whispering poison. Just give up and sink into the darkness. Yodu Rai cuts in, shouting for everyone to stay calm and listen. She explains the constellation's terrifying authority. The deeper you sink into the swamp, the more you are trapped in an illusion of your soul's deepest suffering. They are about to face mental agony far worse than any physical torture. Yet, they must not break. If they can endure the nightmare and survive until the end, they will return to reality. The constellation sneers that it's impossible, but Yodu Rai counters instantly. She has seen what humans can do, and they are magnificent. Even if they defy the laws of the universe, their wisdom and indomitable willpower are forces to be reckoned with. They are not weak enough to die in a mere test. They will survive. The only rule is, never let your spirit break. The black swamp engulfs them. Tae-in tries to activate his personal exclusion skill, but Yodu Rai appears, gently resting her hands on his shoulders. She looks him in the eyes, promising that everyone will be safe, but he must stop fighting the current. He needs to surrender to the swamp and conquer his own inner despair. She confesses that while the swamp cannot touch her, she cannot intervene in his battle. Tae-in glances back one last time. Amidst the swirling chaos, he entrusts his companions to her. Yodu Rai nods solemnly. She will guard their physical bodies with her life. Tae-in drops his shield and lets the darkness take him. As he sinks, a voice echoes from the void, shouting at him to wake up. Groggily, he wonders who is calling. It's Kim Il-jin. The bully sneers, asking why his bread shuttle is sleeping instead of running errands. Bam! His face is slammed into a desk. You bastard, Kim Il-jin shouts. Tae-in reels, wondering where the hell he is. The pain is sharp and real. Kim Il-jin asks if the idiot is finally awake, demanding he hurry up and follow orders. Tae-in scans the room. A classroom? But it doesn't feel like he's traveled back in time. Kim Il-jin cracks his knuckles, promising a lesson he won't forget. Tae-in realizes with a jolt. This is the swamp of despair. The bully barks at him to move. Traumatic memories of past bullying flood his mind. Panic rises. What should he do? Instinctively, he grabs Kim Il-jin's wrist. He mutters that they should go, but internally, his mind screams. Isn't he a SSS-Rank powerhouse? Where is his strength? On the rooftop, the beating is brutal. Blood drips as Tae-in wonders what kind of twisted plot development this is. He was certain the moment he grabbed the wrist was the turning point, the part where the SSS-Rank hero crushes the bully. So why is he bleeding? Kim Il-jin sighs, complaining that his day sucks. Tae-in, broken and bruised, asks why he has to suffer this hell all over again. He desperately tries to cast his D-rank freezing skill. Nothing. Kim Il-jin spits on him, calling him a pathetic loser. Tae-in freezes in horror. Even his weakest magic is gone. No amulet of fury, no ascension stages. He is completely powerless. A heavy fist buries itself in his stomach. This is it. True helplessness. A situation designed to break him. Kim Il-jin sneers, telling him he isn't even fit to shine shoes. Kim Il-jin issues a chilling ultimatum. If the tribute isn't delivered before the break ends, Tae-in will pay with his life. Tae-in stands frozen. In his mind, he is a cosmic being capable of shattering planets with a mere snap. This world feels like a hallucination, yet the fear is terrifyingly real. He wonders if his comrades are trapped in similar hellscapes. Surely, this tyrant wasn't originally this sadistic in the story he remembers. Tae-in rises from the filthy puddle. This place is a living purgatory designed to drown him in despair. But a spark ignites. Turning his back on fear, the battle instincts of a world-saving hero awaken. He launches a desperate punch, but against Kim Il-jin, it doesn't even register. Fear consumes him as he screams. A brutal hand seized his shirt, and the beatdown that follows leaves him beaten beyond recognition. Through the pain, Tae-in realizes this monster is begging to be ground into hamburger meat. But his powers are gone. No status window. No skills. If this torture continues, his mind will shatter. He must learn to fight in this powerless body. Self-teaching is impossible, with zero time. He needs a mentor. His mind flashes to Yuna, the girl with god-tier athletic ability. Even if martial arts are out of reach, surely she can teach him how to forge a body capable of survival. He has to find Yuna's classroom immediately. Blood still drips from his nose, a humiliating sight. But pride is a luxury he can no longer afford. But upon arrival, he spots Kim Il-jin looming over her. The bully is flashing his wealth, insisting he will pay for everything to pressure her. Yuna shuts him down cold, telling him to back off. Kim Il-jin sneers, placing a heavy hand on her shoulder, warning her to stop playing hard to get. Yuna shoves him away with disgust, commanding him to get lost. The bully's ego flares. He asks if she thinks he's desperate for her attention. Suddenly, Tae-in grabs him from behind, his voice trembling as he urges them to leave. Kim Il-jin spins around, demanding to know who dares interrupt. He asks if moss has started growing on Tae-in's brain for him to act this suicidal. Tae-in is stunned. His body moved on its own, driven by a heroic instinct he thought was lost. The bully grips Tae-in's arm like a vice. This perverted trash is getting annoying, he spits, declaring that Tae-in is begging for a one-way ticket to hell today. Yuna shouts for them to stop, but it is too late. Kim Il-jin executes a perfect suplex, slamming the protagonist's spine against the unforgiving floor. The hallway erupts in whispers, comparing the move to Michael Chandler from the UFC. Yuna screams, asking if this lunatic wants to rot in juvenile detention. Kim Il-jin laughs maniacally. He asks who would dare send him there, bragging that his father's money will bury any charges. Tae-in stares at the ceiling. This is the end. A despair no mortal strength can escape. Just as he accepts his fate, Yuna catches the bully's fist in midair. Kim Il-jin freezes, confused by her grip strength. Yuna asks if he intends to commit murder, warning him to stop before he crosses the line of no return. The bully sneers, accusing her of protecting the loser. He insinuates something dirty must be going on between them. Yuna's patience snaps at his trash talk. Kim Il-jin roars, demanding to know their relationship, and reaches to grab her again. Yuna's eyes turn ice cold. She deflects his hand with military precision and spins into a combat stance. With a fluid motion, she twists his arm and sweeps his legs. Kim Il-jin hits the ground hard, and Yuna mounts him, raining down punches on his face. The protagonist watches in awe as she dismantles the tyrant. It is a display of absolute dominance. Yuna stands up, brushing herself off, and calls the bully a pervert. She turns to Tae-in, checking if his neck is injured. He sits up, stunned, insisting he is fine. Yuna frowns, asking why he tried to be a hero. She clearly had the situation under control. The protagonist, still dazed, simply asks if she is a master of combat. She shrugs, explaining that she grew up idolizing special forces. She didn't just watch, she trained like a soldier to become one. Regardless of his toughness, a blow to the neck is dangerous. She refuses to let it slide. She demands to know if he can stand. They are going to the infirmary. The protagonist reaches for her hand, seeing a glimmer of hope. But just as their fingers brush, a shadow looms. Kim Il-jin rises from the dead, standing behind her like a demon. He screams, demanding the truth of their relationship. Rage twists his face. He asks if Yuna thinks her gender will protect her from his wrath. She denies his delusions. Tae-in thinks that even in a nightmare, a guy wouldn't strike a girl. He is wrong. Kim Il-jin draws back his fist to crush her. Yuna prepares to counter, but Lee Nara's voice pierces the tension, shouting that a teacher is approaching. Kim Il-jin freezes mid-strike, cursing his wretched luck. He glares at Tae-in, promising him a personal hell once school is over. He spits into Tae-in's hair as a final insult. Yuna calls him a disgusting psychopath, demanding to know what is broken inside his head. Tae-in whispers that he is okay. Even if this world is a digital illusion, seeing her fury on his behalf fills his heart with warmth. Yuna helps him up, while Lee Nara watches silently from the shadows. Together, they retreat to the safety of the empty infirmary. She observes that his motor functions are intact, and his eyes are focused. He might have escaped a concussion. Still, she refuses to leave him alone until the nurse arrives. She leans back, scrolling on her phone, while Tae-in rests on the cot. He asks why she stays. Yuna replies matter-of-factly that it would be trouble if he collapsed. Plus, skipping class is a nice bonus. The protagonist smiles, thinking her blunt honesty is adorable. He looks at her seriously and asks again about her fighting skills. Yuna snaps back, making it clear she has zero interest in making small talk. Tae-in thanks her regardless, then his expression shifts. He asks if she wants to hear a story. He reveals the twisted history between him and Kim Il-jun. Their connection goes back to kindergarten, bound by a cruel chain. Tae-in's father works for Il-jun's dad. As children, they were innocent, playing together as equals. But as time passed, the invisible walls of social class began to rise. Tae-in started to realize just how different their worlds truly were. Then, the inevitable happened. A simple accident. One of Kim Il-jun's friends bumped into Tae-in. Tae-in spun around, irritation flaring, only to come face to face with his childhood friend. But Il-jun didn't apologize. He didn't even acknowledge him. He just turned his face away in disgust. That silence created a chasm that could never be bridged. In that moment, Tae-in realized the truth. To Kim Il-jun, he was no longer a friend. He was just some pathetic loser from his past. The bullying started slowly, then escalated into a living hell. But today, it reached a level of cruelty that Tae-in had never seen before. Yuna cuts him off. She can't stand listening to this pity party. She looks him in the eye and asks if he is an idiot for letting himself be trampled like this. Tae-in lowers his head. He murmurs that there are strong people like her, and then there are the powerless like him. Yuna scoffs. He really is a hopeless idiot. She insists that if he actually tried, he could change his fate. Tae-in counters bitterly. She doesn't understand. His father's livelihood is held hostage by Il-jun's family. There were lines he simply couldn't cross. Yuna shakes her head, calling him a fool once again. She asks a piercing question. If he fought back, would his father really stay silent after seeing his son treated like trash? Why is she even wasting her breath on a coward like him? Tae-in hesitates, then finds a spark of courage. He suggests she help him out. Yuna raises an eyebrow. Tae-in looks up, determined. He is ready to give her advice a shot. But he needs a teacher. He needs to know how to fight. Yuna stares at him for a long moment. Then a smirk curls her lips. She asks if he is serious. Suddenly, the atmosphere warps. Her eyes glow an eerie blue. A wave of pure, crushing despair washes over Tae-in. He freezes, his mind reeling. What is happening? Yuna's voice turns cold as ice. She wants nothing to do with him. Suddenly, reality dissolves, and a dark, murky swamp swallows Tae-in whole. As he sinks, panic sets in, but a fire ignites in his chest. He can't give up like this. He has to do something. Anything. He struggles against the suffocating water, bursting to the surface. He screams the first thing that comes to mind. He likes her. Yuna freezes, asking what on earth he just said. Tae-in yells it again. He likes her. He knows this might be an illusion, but if this is what it takes, he will scream it 1,000 times to free her from this despair. Yuna explodes with rage. First Kim Il-jun, and now this pervert? Everyone is acting crazy today. She should have just let Il-jun beat him up. Tae-in starts sinking again, the darkness claiming him. He realizes this is the end. Desperate, he screams out one last secret. Her lasagna. It was the best meal she ever cooked. Yuna pauses, her eyes widening. How could he possibly know that? Tae-in doesn't stop. He shouts that she told everyone she trained to be a soldier, but her real dream was to be a baseball player and a chef. Yuna calls him a crazy stalker, but Tae-in denies it. He screams the impossible truth he was her boyfriend in the future. He doesn't care how insane it sounds anymore. Yuna remains trapped in her gloom, turning to leave him to his fate. Tae-in thinks he has failed. He knew so much, yet it ends here. The darkness closes in. But suddenly, a hand grabs his wrist and hauls him up. Yuna pulls him out, demanding answers. It's true, she did prepare to be a chef and a baseball player. But he better explain how he knows that, and no more nonsense about being from the future. Tae-in stares at their hands, still locked together. Yuna suddenly remembers his earlier confession. Her face flushes, and she smacks him across the face. She demands to know why a pervert is holding her hand. Tae-in rubs his cheek, mumbling that she was the one who grabbed him first. A passing nurse witnesses the chaos and stares at them in total confusion. Later, outside the school, Yuna tries to process the insanity. So, he lied about being her future boyfriend, but he claims they were comrades fighting aliens in another dimension, and apparently, one of the strongest aliens trapped him in a virtual torment space. She stares at him. This guy needs a straitjacket, not a fighting lesson. Tae-in sighs, insisting that every word is the truth. Although, hearing it out loud, even he admits it sounds ridiculous. It seems she couldn't see the swamp of despair either, which is rather convenient. But none of that matters now. He pushes the sci-fi story aside. He just wants to learn how to fight. He saw the look in Kim Il-jun's eyes earlier. That wasn't just bullying. Il-jun intends to kill him. Yuna sighs, rubbing her temples. Why should she waste her precious time on a lunatic like him? Tae-in stands his ground. The future stuff might sound crazy, but the facts about her past are real. There is no way he could know about the baseball and chef dreams unless they were close. He won't lie to her anymore. Yuna falls silent. He has a point. Everything he said about her secrets was true. Tae-in clenches his fist. More importantly, Il-jun actually tried to hit her earlier. He won't let that slide. He won't let that bastard mess with her ever again. Yuna blushes, caught off guard by his sudden intensity, but she snaps back to reality. Does this wretched guy think he can win against Kim Il-jun? The weight class difference is massive. Plus, Il-jun clearly has martial arts training. Does Tae-in really believe a runt like him can get strong enough to beat a monster like that in just a few hours? Tae-in looks her in the eye. He has to try. She was the one who said it. If he worked hard, he could change things. Yuna blinks, asking if she really said that. Tae-in nods, remembering the exact moment those words sparked a fire in him. She lets out a long, defeated sigh. Fine. She accepts. But he needs to understand one thing. There is absolutely no way he wins this in a fair fight. A fist flies out of nowhere, slamming squarely into the protagonist's face. Tae-in crashes to the cold floor, looking up in confusion at the sudden assault. Yuna stares down at him coldly. She tells him the fight is decided before it even begins. You must create an opening and strike a vital point instantly. Their brutal training continues relentlessly until the bell rings. Tae-in drags himself off the mats. Back in class, the teacher barks at them to check the group chat immediately. Tae-in sighs, thinking that Yuna's hellish training was even more exhausting than the trials of the Constellations. His stamina is completely drained. But suddenly, Kim Il-jin calls his name, ordering him to follow him like a servant. While Tae-in wonders why his vision is swimming, he forces himself to stand. He recalls Yuna's plan. For now, he must play the part of the victim. Flashing back to training, Tae-in asks why she hit him. Yuna replies simply that she attacked with her elbow because he was wide open. That was the lesson. He took the hit because he never expected it. Surprise is the greatest weapon. If he had anticipated the strike, he would have dodged. It will be exactly the same with the bully, Kim Il-jin. That arrogance is his weakness. Kim Il-jin thinks only of offense and assumes Tae-in is too weak to fight back. Tae-in must remain submissive until the perfect moment reveals itself. In the present, Kim Il-jin sneers at him, calling him a pervert. He declares that whatever happens next is Tae-in's own fault for being useless. The bully starts to pull his shirt off to intimidate him, but he never finishes the motion. Tae-in drives a devastating kick straight into his groin. Kim Il-jin freezes in pure shock. Tears instantly well up in his eyes as his soul leaves his body. Tae-in realizes the opening was real. He struck the vital point exactly as Yuna predicted. The delinquent collapses, rolling on the dirt in agony. He screams that Tae-in is a crazy bastard and swears to kill him for this cheap shot. Tae-in stands over him, trembling slightly. He wonders if this was too dirty. He isn't a martial artist. He just memorized how to hit where it hurts. Is this cowardice? Yuna's voice echoes in his mind. She asks if he is an idiot. He was being beaten by a friend who used their weight difference to torture him. That bullying. That was the true definition of a coward. Enlightenment strikes Tae-in like lightning. He snaps back to reality, listening to Kim Il-jin screaming death threats from the ground. Tae-in clenches his fist. He used to believe violence was never the answer, no matter the situation. But he won't make excuses anymore. Even if this world is vivid, he knows this is a virtual space. This bully is just a fictional character designed to spark rage. Tae-in vows not to lose to a pile of pixels and slams a fist into Kim Il-jin's face. Watching from a distance, Yuna's eyes widen. She never thought he would actually beat Kim Il-jin down. Tae-in roars at the fallen bully, warning him to never touch him or Yuna ever again. Yuna feels heat rise to her cheeks at his words, quickly hiding herself. He actually did it. He overcame the despair. But suddenly, Kim Il-jin grabs Tae-in's wrist. The bully tries to twist his arm, attempting a reversal. Yuna scoffs from her hiding spot. What an idiot. Kim Il-jin snarls that Tae-in is dead meat. His threat is cut short as Tae-in smashes another fist into his face, countering easily. Yuna shakes her head. Even in a submission hold, that fool only thinks about attacking. Kim Il-jin really has zero fight IQ. Tae-in realizes this feels exactly like training. He remembers the embarrassing moment when Yuna straddled him on the mats. In the flashback, Tae-in stammers that the position is a bit much. Yuna ignores his complaints, and Rains punches down on him to make a point. She lectures him sharply. Instead of yapping, he should be trying to escape. In a fight, the one on top dominates. Tae-in recalls how she planted her feet and used gravity to control his entire body. Yuna lands another training blow. She explains that if he gets pinned like this, he has lost 99% of the time. Conversely, if he secures this position, victory is all but guaranteed. Back in the fight, Tae-in realizes Kim Il-jin knows nothing about ground game. Since the bully gave up the position, Tae-in decides to show him true dominance. He centers his gravity at the waist, preventing the opponent from rolling. He locks down the arms to shut down any defense. He executes the mount technique exactly as Yuna taught him. He looks down coldly, telling Kim Il-jin he chose the wrong target. A final blow lands. The bully is knocked out cold. Tae-in feels the suffocating aura of despair finally dissipating from the air. Yuna steps out from the shadows. She admits she didn't expect a clean knockout like that. Not bad for a beginner. She wonders if he has natural talent. Tae-in shakes his head, smiling. It was only because he had an excellent teacher. Yuna blinks, caught off guard, before letting out a rare, genuine laugh. Tae-in realizes it is the first time he has ever seen her smile. He asks the question that has been plaguing him. How is she so strong? Even with prep school, her skills are unnatural. Yuna shrugs. It wasn't normal schooling. Her father had connections to special forces, so her upbringing was less education and more combat survival. Tae-in stares in awe. She really is a legendary combat high schooler. She lists her arsenal casually: boxing, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, karate. She is a living weapon. With Kim Il-jin defeated, Tae-in knows he has finally cleared the test of despair. He questions why the universe still holds him captive in this twisted reality. Suddenly, a tattooed thug looms over him, demanding to know how Kim Il-jin was defeated. Tae-in turns to face the new threat. A pack of delinquents stares back, disbelief written on their faces that a loser could actually knock out their leader. Yuna steps up, her voice sharp as she demands their identity. Tae-in's reply is grim. These aren't just random bullies. They are the Baram group. The lineup is terrifying. Park Kang-woo, known as the Gale, famous for his massive head. Then Bang Yuki, the Whirlwind, a fighter rumored to be as disgusting as he is dangerous. Next is Gung, the Typhoon, a giant of pure muscle. Finally, Zeroth, the Storm, a failed idol trainee who insists on his stage name despite Yuna calling it childish. Tae-in warns her to pay attention. These aren't your average street thugs. Kim Il-jun's father is the chairman of the Sunpong Group. That company didn't start with clean money. It began as a dirty syndicate, building its empire on gang violence and corruption. Now, the second-generation heirs have gathered around Kim Il-jin. They roam the streets like a pack of wolves, committing evil without consequence. Zeroth sneers, asking if they look like common thugs to him. To him, that word is for low-level idiots. Yuki chimes in, questioning the boys' poor choice of vocabulary. Zeroth laughs, claiming they are simply good friends. He steps into Tae-in's personal space, his hand landing heavily on the protagonist's shoulder. His voice drops to a menacing whisper. He asks if Tae-in is really the one who wrecked Il-jun. A dark memory surfaces. If Tae-in fights back, his father will pay the price. The fear is visceral, paralyzing his body. Zeroth smirks, noting the terror in his eyes, declaring that this means they definitely aren't friends. Tae-in stands frozen, knowing it's an illusion but unable to fight the trauma. Yuna snaps at the bully to stop. Zeroth turns, asking if this feisty girl is Tae-in's girlfriend. In that split second, the atmosphere shifts. A killing intent cuts through the air, freezing the entire space. Yuna asks what that trash just said. Her expression goes completely dark, a shadow falling over her eyes. Flashback to a simpler time. Tae-in was laughing at a fusion webtoon when a friend warned Yuna to look out because her boyfriend was passing by. Yuna exploded instantly. She warned them never to joke about relationships, her temper flaring hot enough to burn. And now, Zeroth had just stepped on that exact landmine. He offers a mock apology for the misunderstanding, implying that her single status is the real tragedy. Tae-in mutters that this guy is a total womanizing scumbag. Yuki laughs, revealing Zeroth got kicked out of his agency over girl trouble. Yuna gives one final warning to get lost, but Zeroth smirks, asking, "And if I don't?" The girl shifts instantly into a combat stance. Tae-in tries to intervene, shouting that Il-jun threw the first punch. He insists the fight is over. Zeroth pretends to consider this logic, only to launch a lightning-fast sucker punch straight into Tae-in's face. Yuna gasps at the speed. It was too fast to block. Zeroth sneers, saying the loser was destined to get screwed regardless of the excuse. Yuna charges, taking the lead. The idol mocks her, claiming he has a policy against hitting women, but his eyes say otherwise. She demands he leave, but Zeroth signals his crew. His friends don't share his morals. All three delinquents prepare to crush the lone girl. Tae-in steps forward, desperation in his voice. He calls out to his friend, then screams for her to run away. Yuna pauses, confused by his sudden outburst. Tae-in repeats the command, his voice hard and cold. He asks if learning a few moves makes her think she can take on the world. He delivers the final blow, lying that she isn't even his friend. Yuna is stunned by the betrayal. Hurt flashes across her face before turning to anger. She calls him a pathetic loser and walks away, leaving him to his fate. Tae-in tells himself this was the only way. Yuna could surely win the fight, but defeating them would put a target on her back from the Sunpong group. This is a cross only he can bear. Zeroth laughs, asking if the lovers' quarrel is finally finished. Tae-in raises his fists, adrenaline flooding his veins. He tells the bastards to bring it on. Zeroth obliges, launching a devastating knee strike that connects instantly. Darkness claims him. Tae-in remembers nothing after the impact. He finds himself drifting in a swamp of despair, a strangely comfortable void. He wonders if he should just let go. Sinking into this abyss feels easier than facing the pain of reality. He closes his eyes, faces of his companions flashing through his mind like a cinematic reel. Then, his survival instinct ignites. He screams into the void, refusing to be the only one drowning in despair. He begs the universe for just one more chance. Suddenly, a blinding light pierces the darkness. He wakes to a familiar voice asking if he has finally returned to the land of the living. Tae-in groans at the harsh light, turning his head. His father looks down at him, joking about being unrecognized by his own son. Tae-in bolts upright, eyes wide with shock. He screams in pure terror, causing his father to ask if the beating gave him amnesia. Tae-in pants, asking if that's an appropriate joke right now. His father smiles gently, saying that seeing him alive is relief enough. He asks why he was stuck in that nightmare. His father informs him that his mother was just here, crying her eyes out. He sighs, noting that Tae-in keeps getting beaten up and worrying his parents. Tae-in mutters that he didn't exactly ask to get hit. His father's expression turns serious. He asks if Tae-in knows the culprit. Tae-in admits it wasn't a duel, it was a gang assault. His father falls silent, processing the news. He assures his son it will be okay, repeating his mantra that violence never solves anything. He reflects on his own youth, a time of fighting, but insists the world has changed. Tae-in looks away, realizing how hard he worked to hide the brutal truth of his reality. His father's voice is heavy with purpose. He declares a solemn responsibility to leave behind a world of peace for his son. Tae-young, confused by the sudden gravity, asks what he truly means, but his father deflects with a gentle smile. He urges his son to rest, recover in the hospital, and focus only on his studies. No matter what comes, I will always stand by your side. The protagonist finds it strange. Yet, as he listens to his father, the suffocating despair vanishes like smoke. With a lighter heart, he asks his father to deliver a message. Tell mom not to worry about me. Outside the room, the smile fades from Tae-young's face. His son has no idea what kind of monster his father truly used to be. Meanwhile, Il-jun's father's phone begins to scream. He frowns, wondering why Director Bae would call at this hour. Impatient, he answers, demanding to know what has happened. Il-jun's father demands an explanation for the rude tone. But Director Bae cuts him off cold. I swore an oath as executive director. I would never let the dark shadows of Sunpung touch my family. Night descends over the city, cloaking it in darkness. A voice sneers from the shadows, asking if he is pathetic enough to be defeated by a total loser. Il-jun screams in denial, claiming he remembers nothing. His friend steps in, trying to calm the raging storm. He assures him the secret is safe. No one will hear that the young master of the Sunpung group was beaten to a pulp by a nobody. Kang-woo grins maliciously. They were planning to teach that loser a permanent lesson. That is, until Tae-young appeared out of nowhere, claiming responsibility for the violence. The gang turns, Kang-woo demanding to know who this old man thinks he is. Suddenly, Il-jun's phone vibrates. It is his father, screaming like a madman, asking what the hell he is doing. Il-jun is baffled, asking what is going on, but his father cuts him off with terror in his voice. Shut up and get home, the man you messed with. Do you know whose father that is? To understand the fear, one must know the history. The leadership of this South Korean corporation was not just famous, it was legendary. It began with President Kim. To the public, his rise was a glittering success story known to all. But history is written by the victors. In the past, he was nothing more than a gangster running cheap bars. His mistakes with rival gangs were buried deep, and for a very good reason. The true legend of Sun Pung was a tale of blood and corruption. A story written not by the president, but by that deviant's own father. He did not just participate in the underworld, he ruled it. He single-handedly crushed local syndicates and dominated the market, a force of nature that no one could stop. He did not just defeat the gangsters, he absorbed them. After breaking their spirits, he integrated them into his own empire. Using a terrifying natural instinct for business, he legitimized the chaos. He built the organization into something massive, structured, and unstoppable. Seedy bars transformed into high-end restaurants. The grim life of the underworld morphed into the glittering brand of Sun Pung Entertainment. It evolved further into heavy industry, riding the tidal wave of South Korea's rapid economic growth. And leading the charge was always the company. Tae-in was the architect of it all. But when offered the chairman's seat of Sun Pung, he refused firmly. His condition for stepping away was simple, yet absolute. My wife and son will live a normal life. No extravagant chibo luxuries, no underground violence, just peace. Once that safety was guaranteed, he surrendered everything he had built. To the outside world, it was an agreement bordering on madness. But for this man, family was his religion. He chose a humble existence, walking away from absolute power and glory. When Tae-in was a child, he would ask what his father did. The answer was always a gentle smile. I am just an ordinary office worker. Back in the present, Il-jun's father trembles in fear. He tells his son he has touched that man's greatest taboo. You need to hide. Get somewhere safe immediately. Kang-woo sneers, asking if the old man knows who they are. Tae-yong's eyes go cold. I know you very well. You are the eldest son of Yong-hun from Heavy Industries. With a single, fluid movement, he tosses the boy aside like a rag doll. Il-jun's father is still screaming on the line, trying to reach his son, but only silence answers him. The shock has rendered them mute. The real nightmare has just begun.